Chapter 2097. Even the people of Nine Heavens Palace and Treasure Pavilion didn't know about the existence of the potential pill and potential pill. It could be seen that in the entire ancient world, only he and Mu Tianyang had the recipe. But Long Tianyu had obtained these two pills in the far west land. This was such an unimaginable thing. The madman asked, "What else did you see in his memories?" Qin Feiyang said, "A gray castle. When he went missing, he was in that castle." "So you're saying that it was that ancient castle that caused his talent to change?" The madman was surprised. From his memories, I saw that he saw a gray figure in the gray castle. But this figure was very blurry and I couldn't see his face clearly. Qin Feiyang said. Gray castle, gray figure. The madman muttered to himself as a cold light appeared in his eyes. If that's the case, Long Tianyu was really lying. Qin Feiyang's eyelids twitched. This guy couldn't be thinking of killing him, right? He hurriedly said, "He's just a child. Is there a need to be so calculative?" "What? Why would I be calculative with a brat? I just admire this kid's guts. He actually dared to lie to someone from Nine Heavens Palace. But this matter is getting more and more interesting. Let's go. We'll immediately enter the far west land and find that gray castle. I want to see what the hell is hidden inside." The madman laughed. Qin Feiyang hesitated and said, "I think we should report it to Shangguan Fenglan first." "Why report it to her?" The madman was suspicious. The gray castle isn't simple. It seems to have the ability to steal life and erode the soul. I'm worried that with our strength, we might not be able to stop it, Qin Feiyang said. "It's fine. I'll protect you." The madman waved his hand and swept Qin Feiyang towards the west. Qin Feiyang could not help but smile bitterly. He knew that this madman would not listen to his advice. The land of extreme west was the same as the heavenly dragon sea. It was impossible to directly teleport in using altars, and it was also impossible to send messages to the outside world. In other words, once one stepped into the far west land, it was equivalent to stepping into a cage that was isolated from the rest of the world. As they got closer to the far west, the temperature gradually dropped. About half an hour passed. Finally, towering mountains and rivers entered their line of sight. The temperature here had already dropped to 5 or 6 degrees, and one could even see some snow in the mountains. At the top of one of the hills stood a broken stone tablet. The stone tablet was more than 10 meters tall. Below it were piles of dead branches and leaves. There were 4 ancient words engraved on it. The land of the far west. Qin Feiyang glanced at the stone tablet before turning to Madman and asking, "Have you been here before?" "No." Madman shook his head and said, "But I've heard a lot about it. It's said that it snows all year round and the environment is extremely bad." As he spoke, he raised his head and looked towards the depths of the land of the far west. He could vaguely see the land covered in snow. "Are you sure you don't want to inform Shangguan Fenglan?" Qin Feiyang asked. "You're not even afraid of Fengyuan. Why would you be afraid of this place where birds don't lay eggs?" Madman's face was full of disdain. "Big brother, is this a place where birds don't lay eggs? This is a forbidden area in the northern region. Those law enforcers who are as strong as you can't even come out alive, let alone us." Qin Feiyang was displeased. All right. I'm here. I won't let anything happen to you." Madman did not allow any explanation. He grabbed Qin Feiyang and rushed into the land of the far west. Qin Feiyang was helpless and could only point the way for Madman. After reading Long Tianyu's memories, he also knew the direction and location of the gray castle. As they went deeper, the snow on the ground became thicker and thicker. At first, they could still see some plants stubbornly growing in the snow. But in the end, the entire land became white. The temperature gradually dropped to dozens of degrees below zero. If it was an ordinary person, they wouldn't be able to withstand such a low temperature for long. But Qin Feiyang and Madman, one was a perfect war god. An existence that surpassed the divine lord realm. So for now they were not a threat to them. However, a doubt gradually rose in Madman's heart. He turned to Qin Feiyang and asked, "How did Long Tianyu find the gray castle?" Qin Feiyang said, "It was the gray castle that came to find him." "What?" Madman was stunned. According to his memories, when he was still mediocre, He wanted to enter the land of the far west to find opportunities and fortunes. Because the nearby villages have an ancient legend that there are countless miracles and treasures in the land of the far west. So he wanted to try his luck. But when he entered the land of the far west, he couldn't withstand the cold and fainted. And just as he was about to freeze to death, the gray figure appeared and brought him to the castle, and taught him cultivation and battle arts. From then on, Long Tianyu treated the gray figure like a master and was respectful. Qin Feiyang said. So that's how it is. Madman suddenly understood and asked, then Long Tianyu lied because the gray figure taught him? Yes. The gray figure told him not to reveal his information to anyone who asks. Qin Feiyang said. Madman pursed his lips and said, so cautious, it doesn't seem like he's a good person. I don't know if he's a good person or not. But his strength is definitely not ordinary. Qin Feiyang whispered with a trace of worry on his face. When he entered the land of the far west, he had an uneasy premonition in his heart. It was as if something bad would happen soon. Unknowingly, the two had already gone hundreds of thousands of miles into the land of the far west. The current temperature had already dropped to a few hundred degrees below zero. At a glance, it was all glaciers and snow. There was no sign of life at all. Qin Feiyang could already feel the coldness. But the temperature was still falling. Madman's speed was very fast. Even if Qin Feiyang activated the Xing character art and teleported, it was still less than 1/10 of his speed. 2 hours passed in the blink of an eye. Qin Feiyang didn't know how far they had gone into the land of the far west. In short, even he couldn't withstand the current temperature. His body was stiff and his face was pale. His hair, eyebrows and skin were all covered in frost. Madman saw that the situation wasn't good and hurriedly used his divine power to form a large barrier to block the cold outside. Qin Feiyang whispered, fortunately, there are no beasts here. Otherwise it would be difficult to move. How can there be beasts in this damn place? Madman said. However, before his voice faded, boom! A glacier collapsed in front of them, and snow flooded in all directions like a flood. The two were shocked. Roar! Accompanied by a deafening roar, a beast the size of a mountain rushed out of the snow. It was a frost ape. Its body was hundreds of feet tall. On its shoulders there were 9 heads. Every head was like a small mountain. Their blood-red pupils flickered with savagery. How is this possible? Madman was dumbfounded. What's wrong? Qin Feiyang was surprised. Madman said in surprise, its cultivation is the same as mine. Half a step into the divine realm. The same as yours? Qin Feiyang's face couldn't help but turn pale. It didn't come out, but when it came out it was a terrifying existence comparable to Madman. How could they continue? Because the appearance of the frost ape meant that there were no beasts in the land of the far west. On the contrary, the beasts here were even more terrifying than the ones in the Sky Dragon mountain range. The frost ape stood in front, its 18 eyes flashing with incomparable ferocity. Its ferocious aura shook hundreds of thousands of miles of glaciers. It shouted, human, this is a forbidden area, leave quickly. Forbidden area? The madman came back to his senses and the corner of his mouth lifted. His aura erupted like a volcano and surged out. However, the frost ape's eyes were filled with disdain. Damn, you dare to look down on me? Seeing the frost ape's eyes, Madman couldn't help but be furious. He waved his hand and his divine power roared as he pounced at the frost ape. The disdain in the frost ape's eyes became stronger. Boom! Suddenly, it waved its thick arms and punched at Madman's divine power. Accompanied by a loud explosion, the divine power was shattered by the frost ape's punch. Madman took a few steps back, his face pale. So strong? He stared at the frost ape in shock. In the past 6 months, there have been more than a dozen humans like you that entered the land of the far west. Their strength wasn't bad, but they all died in my hands. The frost ape sneered. A human like me? Madman paused. Qin Feiyang said in a deep voice, could it be the enforcer sent by Shangguan Fenglan? I'm afraid it's them. Madman muttered as he rubbed his forehead and sighed. It seems that I underestimated the danger of the land of the far west. It's not too late to turn back. Qin Feiyang transmitted his voice. He didn't want to come in. It wasn't that he was a coward, but because this matter had nothing to do with him. so there was no need to follow Madman and take the risk. Turn back. Madman sneered as he stared at the frost ape and said, I'm afraid you found the wrong target this time. Qin Feiyang, go hide in the space divine item. I'll play with it. Madman licked his lips as fighting spirit boiled in his eyes. His body also emitted a terrifying aura. Qin Feiyang was helpless to the extreme. He originally wanted to persuade Madman to leave, but he didn't expect that it would arouse Madman's fighting spirit. It was basically hopeless to persuade him to leave. Forget it. Let this fellow do as he pleases. Qin Feiyang flashed and disappeared without a trace. Madman waved his hand and the barrier blocking the cold current also collapsed. Voila! As soon as the barrier disappeared, the murderous aura around Madman turned into a blood-red wave that surged toward the frost ape. The void was destroyed and glaciers collapsed. The entire area immediately turned blood-red, as if it was the purgatory of Azura. In fact, one could even vaguely hear the roars of malicious spirits. The frost ape's pupils shrank. How many massacres did he have to go through to have such a terrifying murderous aura? It decisively stopped underestimating him. Boom! Its aura was released and its ferocious aura shook the world. As it waved its claw, a wave of divine power roared in the sky and blasted toward Madman's murderous aura. Boom! In an instant, divine power and murderous aura collided. In an instant, the sky collapsed and the earth cracked. The void millions of miles away shattered as if it was the end of the world. Chapter 2098. Roar. At the same time, painful roars could be heard from the glacier behind the madman. The madman paused for a moment before turning his head to look behind him. He saw one beast after another roaring from the bottom of the glacier. They weren't the companions of the 9 ice apes. There were all kinds of beasts. As soon as these ferocious beasts appeared, they fled in panic without looking back. Qin Feiyang, who was in the castle, also noticed this scene. Only now did he understand that it wasn't that there weren't any beasts on the way here. It was that these beasts were hiding under the glacier, and didn't dare to come out after sensing the madman's aura. And now, the moment the madman and the 9 ice apes fought, these beasts felt the danger and naturally didn't dare to continue hiding. This also meant that the Far West was more terrifying than they imagined. Compared to the dozen humans before, it's really different. The 9 ice ape looked at the madman and muttered, but then a trace of disdain appeared in its eyes. Boom! Taking advantage of the fact that the madman's attention was on the other beasts, it took a step forward and stomped towards the madman like a giant. Beasts also know how to sneak attack? The madman was stunned. Then he raised his arm and punched out. Boom! His punch landed on the sole of the 9 ice ape's foot. Compared to the mountain-like feet of the 9-headed frost ape, his fist was like an insignificant speck of dust. However, the power of his punch sent the 9 ice ape flying, and the sole of the ice ape's foot was torn open. The 9-headed frost ape let out a pained roar and ruthlessly smashed into an ice mountain. The ice mountain was tens of thousands of feet high, but under the impact of the 9 ice apes, it was instantly flattened like a dead tree. How is this possible? The 9 ice ape climbed up from the ice and looked at the madman in disbelief. As a beast, its body was naturally stronger than a human's. And living in such a cold place all year round, the toughness and strength of its body would gradually increase. So, whether it was its body or strength, it had absolute confidence. But it didn't expect that it would lose to a human at this moment. I said, you found the wrong opponent this time. I can't be compared to those trash. The madman's black hair fluttered in the wind. His entire body emitted a battle intent that shook the heavens. Whoosh! He crossed the void with a single step, and his fist shone with divine light. Like a shooting star he punched out. The 9 frost apes were unconvinced. They also swung their strong arms and punched out. Rumble! The 2 fists collided. A wave of destructive energy spread out in all directions with them as the center. Crack! Following closely, an ear-piercing sound echoed throughout the area. The 9 frost apes immediately retreated in panic. As he retreated, he howled in pain. Its arm had been fractured. 2 ghastly white bone spurs pierced through his flesh and skin. Blood gushed out like a fountain. What the hell is going on? How can a human strength be so strong? Yi Zichen muttered to himself. The 9 heads and the 18 eyes were all filled with shock at this moment. That's it? I haven't even used 1% of my strength yet. The madman walked step by step towards the 9 frost apes. His footsteps were steady and powerful. The void collapsed one after another. His aura shook the heavens. The 9 frost apes revealed a look of fear. He hadn't even used 1% of his strength and he was already so powerful? Then how terrifying was this person's peak strength? So, suddenly, it glanced around, then turned around and fled deeper into the forest. The madman was stunned. It hadn't even started and it was already running away? How boring. He pursed his lips and withdrew his aura. He looked around and said indifferently, "Come out." Not long after his voice fell, Qin Feiyong appeared beside the madman. The madman condensed another divine power barrier to isolate the cold current outside. Qin Feiyong smiled. "You haven't had enough yet, right? Isn't that nonsense?" The madman rolled his eyes. This level of battle wasn't even enough for him to warm up. "Don't worry. There will definitely be stronger beasts behind." However, at this point Qin Feiyong hesitated. The madman looked at him and said impatiently, "If you have something to say, then say it." Qin Feiyong smiled. "Look, facing a beast of this level I can't help at all. Instead, I will be a burden to you. Less nonsense. Since you've boarded my pirate ship, don't think about getting off." Before Qin Feiyong finished, the madman gave Qin Feiyong a mocking smile. Then he forcefully brought Qin Feiyong and continued to fly deeper. Qin Feiyong was furious. To be honest, facing a beast of this level, his cultivation wasn't much help. He couldn't understand why the madman was dragging him along. About 100 breaths passed. Suddenly, Qin Feiyong's expression changed. He stared at the glacier ahead as if he had seen a devil. His eyes were filled with fear. The madman was also slightly taken aback. But then, his eyes were filled with excitement. "He is indeed a battle maniac," Qin Feiyong muttered. The glacier ahead wasn't some rare treasure. It was a frost ape. Moreover, it was the 9-headed frost ape that fought the madman before. Its broken arm was still bleeding. Those 9 pairs of millstone-sized eyes were all suffused with a terrifying ferocious light. But this wasn't the reason why Qin Feiyong was terrified. The real reason was that behind the 9-headed frost ape, there were another 15 frost apes. They also had 9 heads. Their size was the same as the 9-headed frost ape from before. And the aura they emitted was also the same. In other words, they were all super existences that surpassed perfect monarch god. "Senior brother, you play slowly. I'll leave first." Qin Feiyong swallowed his saliva. After saying that, he went straight into the castle. What a joke. Adding the 9 frost apes from before, there were a total of 16 of them. With such a terrifying lineup, if he stayed outside, only death would await him. "You're scared to the point of pissing your pants. Really useless." The madman snorted. Qin Feiyong, who had entered the castle, heard the madman's words and was so angry that his nose was about to become crooked. Which perfect war god wouldn't run when they saw 16 half-step monarch god beasts? Not to mention a perfect war god. Even a perfect monarch god could only run at the sight of them. "It's him. Brothers, let's kill him together." The injured 9-headed frost ape let out a resentful roar and charged at the madman with a terrifying aura. The other 15 frost apes also roared and charged at the madman. "If you can force me to take a step back, I'll admit defeat." The madman crossed his arms and stood in the air. He looked at the 16 frost apes with disdain. Arrogant. The 16 frost apes roared like thunder. They waved their mountain-like fists and smashed at the madman. The madman sneered. He clenched his fists and charged forward. Bang bang bang. Rumble rumble rumble. Accompanied by loud sounds, the 16 frost apes were sent flying in less than 5 breaths. Their arms were all broken. All of them grimaced in pain. But more than that, they were terrified. Especially the 15 frost apes that came out later. They were terrified to the extreme. This power, this physical body. Why was he so ridiculously strong? They didn't believe it when they heard the first frost ape talk about the madman. How could a human's physical body and power compare to these beasts? But the result was even more terrifying than what the frost ape said. Inside the castle, Qin Feiyong's face was also filled with shock. Last time when they sparred on Turtle King Island, he already knew that the madman's physical body had been tempered. It wasn't a problem for him to crush a middle-grade divine weapon with his bare hands. But he found that the madman's performance this time was even stronger than last time. It was probably comparable to a high-grade divine weapon. In other words, the madman now could probably crush a high-grade divine weapon with his bare hands. He might even dare to fight against a perfect divine weapon. However, it hadn't been long since the last time they sparred. How did he improve so much? Was the madman hiding his strength from the beginning? Or could it be that he had some kind of special method that allowed him to temper his body? Outside, the madman really didn't take a step back. He was like Mount Tai. His black hair fluttered in the wind. The blood-red divine power around him was like a tide that rolled in the void. Looking from afar, he was like a demon god. His killing intent was shocking. Just this bit of skill. Looking at the 16 frost apes, his expression was filled with contempt. Roar! These words completely enraged the 16 frost apes. They faced the sky and roared, shaking the surroundings. Following closely, waves after waves of heavenly energy poured out and turned into waves of cold air that drowned out the sky. Immediately, the snowstorm in this area was even more intense than before. The cold currents were bone-chilling. A layer of ice appeared on the madman's body. If Qin Feiyong was outside right now, there was no doubt that he would turn into an ice sculpture and freeze to death. Divine technique? The madman muttered. The ice on his body was getting thicker and thicker. Even his four limbs were starting to go numb. If he just stood there without moving, even with his cultivation, he would definitely be completely frozen in less than 3 breaths of time. Gotcha. The madman was trapped in the cold current, so he was naturally clear of this point. Waves of killing intent broke out of his body. The ice on his body began to crack slowly, accompanied by a series of ear-piercing cracking sounds. What? We can't freeze him. Just how strong is the killing intent in his body? The 16 frost apes were shocked when they saw this scene. They had never seen a human with such a shocking killing intent. Not enough, far from enough. You don't even have the qualifications to let this father warm up. All of a sudden, the madman roared and the ice on his body shattered. He jumped up and landed on the head of one of the frost apes. Boom! He stomped down. With a cracking sound, one of the frost apes' heads exploded like a watermelon. Flesh and blood splattered. The surrounding ice and snow instantly turned blood-red. The remaining 8 heads of the frost ape howled miserably. His heart was also filled with fear that could not be dispelled. This human was like a god descending to the mortal world. He was so strong that it made them despair. Chapter 2099. Run! The frost ape that had appeared first suddenly let out an explosive roar, turned around and began to flee. The frost ape that had one of its heads crushed and the other 14 frost apes didn't dare to stay any longer and fled for their lives. This time we won't be as lucky as before. The madman chuckled and waved his hand, sending out a ray of golden light. The ray of golden light was like a strand of hair, but its lethality was extremely terrifying. Whoosh! The golden light streaked across the sky like lightning, shattering one head after another. The 16 frost apes were all killed in less than 10 breaths. The mountain-like corpse fell into the snow, and blood flowed out like a small stream. Terrifying. Inside the ancient castle, Qin Feiyong's heart trembled. Last time it was this ray of golden light that broke the blood flash formed by the kill formula. But what was this ray of golden light? He still couldn't figure it out. Outside, the madman casually clapped his hands, and the golden light disappeared into his body. Then he looked into the void and said, "Did you see that? With me here you'll be fine." Qin Feiyong appeared beside Madman and praised him without holding back. Impressive, impressive. The madman smiled proudly and pointed at the 16 frost apes. Take these corpses. Qin Feiyong paused and asked suspiciously, "Why should I take their corpses?" "Nonsense. Of course, to the resource hall to exchange for soul stones. These beasts are all half-step paragon gods. Whether it's their blood or bones, they are all very valuable. Even if you don't lack soul stones, you can sell them to the treasure hall. You can sell them for a sky-high price," the madman said. I see. Qin Feiyang's heart moved. He took out an unused interspatial ring and put the 16 frost ape corpses inside. How dare you? How dare you hurt my subjects? But just as Qin Feiyang put away the interspatial ring, an angry roar came from the void in front of him. Merely that voice contained an oppressive might that caused Qin Feiyang to feel fear. Qin Feiyang hurriedly raised his head to look. Immediately, he saw a golden flowing light breaking through the air with a speed that was hard to catch with the naked eye. What followed was a monstrous divine power. This divine power had already surpassed the 16 frost apes. The madman was also shocked and shouted, "Damn, it's a beast emperor that just became a paragon god. Run!" Hearing this, Qin Feiyang didn't hesitate to turn around and escape. You're too slow. Madman grabbed Qin Feiyang and used a supplementary divine art, disappearing in the blink of an eye. Where do you think you're going? However, the golden light was not shaken off by them. Instead, it was getting closer and closer to them. In other words, the speed of the golden light was even faster than Madman's. Why are we so? Madman angrily glanced at the golden flowing light behind him. He looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "Don't you have a spatial divine item that divine sense can't capture? Let's go in and hide." Qin Feiyang was a little hesitant. The madman urged, "Hurry up. If you don't go in, I won't be able to protect you." Qin Feiyang let out a breath. With a thought, he brought the madman into the black tortoise realm. Swish! Just as the two of them disappeared, the golden stream of light swept over and appeared in the void. It was a golden ape. But compared to the 16 frost apes, it was much smaller. It was about the size of an adult, about 1.78 meters tall, and only had one head. The golden fur on his body was like satin. But at this time its golden eyes were filled with anger. Divine sense surged and covered all directions. Damn humans! Do you think you'll be safe by hiding in a spatial divine item? It uttered a roar. Wisps of golden god force burst out of its body and swept across the place like a surging tide. Millions of void, earth, and mountains were all shattered. This world turned into chaos, as if it was the beginning of the world. But soon, the golden ape frowned. If it was a spatial divine item, then even if it was shattered, there should be fragments. However, his divine sense hadn't detected anything. What was going on? Inside the black tortoise realm, the madman stood in the sky above the herb field and looked around curiously. Qin Feiyang looked at the golden ape in the image with a worried expression. The golden ape was too strong. He was worried that the black tortoise realm might not be able to withstand it. But it seemed that he was worried for nothing. The black tortoise realm didn't shake at all. Another moment passed. Seeing that the black tortoise realm was still fine, Qin Feiyang finally let out a sigh of relief. Qin Feiyang, in the future, it's best not to provoke experts at the level of paragon gods. But at this moment, an angry voice sounded in Qin Feiyang's mind. Qin Feiyang was stunned. This seemed to be the voice of the little boy. What's wrong? He asked in his mind. Do you think the black tortoise realm is really fine? Let me tell you, it was I who used the origin power to stabilize the black tortoise realm, preventing it from being destroyed. The little boy said angrily. Hearing this, Qin Feiyang was shocked. In any case, with the current strength of the black tortoise realm, it can't directly clash with experts at the level of paragon gods. Otherwise, it will consume a large amount of origin power every time. The little boy said. In other words, the black tortoise realm isn't really incapable of clashing head-on with experts at the level of paragon gods? Qin Feiyang asked. If it's really a head-on clash, the black tortoise realm can still withstand it. However, it's better to avoid this kind of thing as much as possible, because the consumption of origin power will affect the growth of the black tortoise realm. The little boy explained. Qin Feiyang said. Then when will the black tortoise realm be able to fight with paragon gods without any scruples? Judging from the current growth rate of the black tortoise realm, it shouldn't be long. I'll tell you when the time comes. The little boy said. Okay. I'll try my best to avoid it in the future. Qin Feiyang secretly said. The little boy responded and then didn't say anything else. And outside, the golden ape roared angrily and also disappeared into the depths of the far west. Qin Feiyang exhaled. He finally avoided this calamity. Wait. Origin power, rule power. Is there a difference between these two things? Qin Feiyong frowned again. Suddenly, Madman's doubtful voice sounded in Qin Feiyong's ears. Qin Feiyong, is this really a spatial divine item? Qin Feiyong was slightly stunned, turned his head to look at Madman, and nodded, of course. Then why are there so many people and beasts? It feels no different from the outside world. Madman frowned. Qin Feiyong's pupils shrank slightly. This person's insight was really terrifying. He smiled and said, "The people here are basically the clansmen of my subordinates. Do you think I'm stupid? How can there be so many clansmen in that family?" Madman said angrily, "Don't move. In my world, a slightly larger tribe has millions of clansmen," Qin Feiyong said. "So it's like this." Madman nodded in realization. Seeing Madman still looking thoughtful, Qin Feiyong immediately realized that he couldn't let this person continue to stay in the Black Tortoise realm. The Black Tortoise realm wasn't comparable to others. Even the alchemy scripture, the 6-word divine formula, and the ancient castle couldn't be compared to the Black Tortoise realm, because the Black Tortoise realm was an independent small world. Once exposed, it would definitely attract countless people to snatch it. Even the people of Nine Heavens Palace would probably force him to hand over the Black Tortoise realm. "That monkey has already left. Let's go out." After Qin Feiyong finished speaking, he didn't wait for Madman to react and left the Black Tortoise realm. The bone-piercing cold current surged over. A layer of ice immediately appeared on Qin Feiyong's body. What a burden! Madman glanced at Qin Feiyong and shook his head. He formed a divine power barrier to isolate the cold current. After Qin Feiyong melted the ice, he said angrily, "I am a burden to begin with. Can you please let me go back?" "No." Madman shook his head. "Who did I offend?" Qin Feiyong was extremely angry. "Don't be angry, it's just a joke, let's go." Madman chuckled and continued forward with Qin Feiyong. Qin Feiyong stared at Madman and looked ahead. His expression suddenly changed and he hurriedly said, "Wait, you still dare to go like this? Aren't you afraid of meeting that monkey again? Then how do you think we should go?" Madman was suspicious. Qin Feiyong said, "Nonsense, of course we'll take a detour." "That's fine." Madman thought for a moment and nodded. Then he let Qin Feiyong away from the route and flew to the left. After a while, seeing that there was no danger, Qin Feiyong couldn't help but ask curiously, "Is Paragon God the realm above Divine Lord?" "Yes." Madman nodded. Qin Feiyong said, "Is it the same as War God and Divine Lord?" "Yes." "It's all elementary, minor, major, perfection and perfection," Madman said. "What about above Paragon God?" Qin Feiyong said. "Above Paragon God," Madman muttered to himself and shook his head. "Even I can only look up to experts of that level. Don't even think about it. Break through to Divine Lord first." Qin Feiyong curled his lips and said, "I don't think you're that good. You can only run away when you meet a beast at elementary Paragon God." "Say that again?" Madman's body stiffened and he immediately stopped in the void, staring at Qin Feiyong with hostility. "Am I not telling the truth?" Qin Feiyong looked at Madman without fear. "What do you know? Do you know the difference between half-step Paragon God and elementary Paragon God? It's like the difference between false God and war God. Without some heaven-defying means, it's impossible to cross this threshold. Of course, it's not that I don't have the ability, I just find it troublesome," Madman said. "Keep bragging." Qin Feiyong sneered. "Bragging?" Madman was furious and said, "If you have the guts, then make a bet with me." "How?" Qin Feiyong asked. "I'll go find that damn monkey right now. If I can't beat it, I'll listen to your orders from now on. I'll do whatever you want me to do. But if I win, you'll give me that spatial divine item. Do you dare to bet?" Madman provoked. Chapter 2100. Hearing this, Qin Feiyong couldn't help but be tempted. This madman's strength was obvious to all. It was a great temptation to listen to him in the future. However, he really didn't dare to gamble, because Madman was too confident. And he also knew that Madman's strength was far more than this. Although the temptation was great, the price was also great. If Madman really defeated the Golden Ape, then he would have to give the Black Tortoise world to Madman. This wasn't a good deal. Don't be like a woman. Just say it. Do you dare to gamble? Madman said. Ha! Qin Feiyong laughed dryly. Senior brother, I was just joking. You took it seriously. Joking. If you don't dare, then you don't dare. Why find an excuse? Madman's face was full of disdain. Qin Feiyong smiled and quickly changed the topic. He asked curiously, how long does it take to cultivate from a half-step paragon god to a beginner paragon god? How long? Madman murmured and continued to move forward with Qin Feiyong. After a long time he shook his head. It depends on one's talent. Those with good talent can take hundreds of thousands of years. Those with average talent can take millions or even tens of millions of years. Those with good talent need hundreds of thousands of years? Qin Feiyong was dumbstruck. He asked, then what if we have enough soul stones? That's a different story. If there's a time array, then it's even better. In short, once you break through to the war god realm, you will be in seclusion for hundreds or thousands of years. When you break through to the monarch god realm and paragon god realm, you will be in seclusion for even longer. Tens of thousands of years is common. Just like the 9 elders of our Empyrean Palace. From the time I entered Empyrean Palace until now, I have only seen them a few times. Madman sighed. Tens of thousands of years, Qin Feiyong was dumbfounded. Because of the ancient castle, let alone thousands or tens of thousands of years, he hadn't even tried to cultivate for decades. In his opinion, it was too long. It was too boring. Cultivating in seclusion all day, what fun was there in life? The path of cultivation is like this. The higher the realm, the more boring it gets. Great Elder kept urging me to go into seclusion, but I just wasn't willing. Madman pursed his lips. Qin Feiyong asked curiously, how long has it been since you became a half-step paragon god? How long? Madman pondered for a moment and said, probably 7,000 to 8,000 years. 7 or 8,000 years. Qin Feiyong's mouth twitched. When Madman broke through to the half-step supreme god realm and dominated the 9-heaven palace, he wasn't even born yet. In that case, this fellow was also an antique. Wait. Suddenly, Qin Feiyong frowned. Madman had broken through to half-step paramount god 7 or 8,000 years ago. At that time it seemed to be the time when the ancestor's reputation was rising. And it was at that time that the ancestor went missing. In other words, when the ancestor entered 9-heaven palace, he met Madman. When Qin Feiyong thought of this, he was immediately bewildered. He had always thought that Madman was a junior in front of the ancestor. He had never seen the ancestor in person, only heard rumors. However, he never expected that Madman and the ancestor were from the same time period. The meaning was completely different. Because if Madman was only a junior, then he definitely didn't know much about the ancestor's deeds. After all, the rumors were more or less untrue. But as people from the same time period, he definitely knew the ancestor's background. In other words, this Madman knew everything about the ancestor. Qin Feiyong looked at Madman and asked with a pleading tone, Senior brother, can you tell me why my ancestor disappeared? Madman glanced at him, shook his head and sighed. After thousands of years, if I had cultivated seriously, I would have broken through to the half-step supreme god realm by now. Qin Feiyong couldn't help but be angry. I'm asking you a question. You ask me and I have to answer you? How much face do you have? Madman's face was full of disdain. Qin Feiyong was infuriated, but a sense of powerlessness soon followed. If it were anyone else, he could think of a way to force the other party to say it. But this Madman, although he looked unrestrained and frivolous, was actually a scheming old fox. Coupled with his terrifying strength, he really couldn't do anything. Roar! The following journey was not as smooth as the beginning. From time to time a ferocious beast would run out, and their strength was extremely terrifying. The weakest was half-step supreme god. Half-step supreme god ferocious beasts were also common. This extreme west has really exceeded my expectations. The degree of danger should be comparable to the depths of the heavenly dragon sea. Madman had long stopped underestimating the place. His mind was highly focused, and he would immediately flee if there was any movement. Just as he said, it wasn't that he couldn't win, but that he was afraid of trouble. After all, once he fought with a ferocious beast, it would attract other nearby ferocious beasts. Time flew by. The sky gradually darkened. The night in the far west was covered by dark clouds, and the moon couldn't be seen. Everywhere was pitch black. Qin Feiyong and Madman became more and more careful. Roar! Beast roars sounded in the night sky from time to time. At first, it was nothing, but late at night, the two of them sensed a ferocious beast even more terrifying than the golden ape in the glacier ahead. This won't do. We have to go around, Qin Feiyong said solemnly. Its aura was even more terrifying than the golden ape's. Without a doubt, the ferocious beast hiding under the glacier was definitely a half-step supreme god. Madman didn't dare to be careless and immediately led Qin Feiyong around the glacier ahead. But soon, the two of them stopped again. Madman's brows were tightly furrowed. Qin Feiyong had a look of fear. Because no matter how they went around, they would always encounter ferocious beasts stronger than half-step supreme god. Looks like we have to stop here. Qin Feiyong was silent for a moment, then turned to look at Madman. Because it was obvious that they had already entered the depths of the far west. The ferocious beasts they would encounter next would probably be at the half-step supreme god level. Unless they had absolute confidence in their strength, they wouldn't be able to continue. Madman scanned the front, his face full of unwillingness. Suddenly, his eyes lit up as he said to Qin Feiyong, "Why don't we use the spatial divine item to travel? You want to go in so badly?" Qin Feiyong frowned angrily. Madman smiled and said, "We've already come this far. Wouldn't it be a pity to give up halfway?" Qin Feiyong shook his head helplessly. Madman said, "Don't dilly-dally. Quickly take me to your spatial divine item." "Go to my spatial divine item?" Qin Feiyong was taken aback and frowned. "Why, don't you have it?" "This?" Madman's expression stiffened as he smiled embarrassedly. "I really don't." Qin Feiyong didn't say anything. He just sneered at Madman. Did he think he was an idiot? How could a half-step supreme god not have a spatial divine item? "I'm not lying to you. I used to look down on spatial divine items," Madman said. "Look down on?" Qin Feiyong was stunned. "That's right. Only a coward who's afraid of death would prepare a spatial divine item and be ready to escape at any time," Madman said. "What kind of logic is that? Who said that a spatial divine item is for escaping? There are other uses for it, okay?" Qin Feiyong was speechless. All right. Hurry up," Madman urged with an awkward expression. "You really don't have a spatial divine item?" Qin Feiyong still didn't believe it. Who didn't know the benefits of a spatial divine item? This guy definitely wanted to enter the Black Tortoise world again and take the opportunity to observe it. "I really don't. If you don't believe me, use your divine sense to search. If you find it, I'll give it to you," Madman said. "Really?" Qin Feiyong asked. Come. Madman opened his hands and didn't have the slightest intention of resisting. "I still don't believe it." Qin Feiyong muttered and released his divine sense, pouncing towards Madman. "You're really searching?" Madman's face darkened. A divine sense appeared and blocked Qin Feiyong's divine sense. "Nonsense. You're the one who asked me to search. Why? Are you feeling guilty now?" Qin Feiyong sneered. "Who doesn't have a secret? I really don't have a spatial divine item. Why don't you believe me?" Madman said powerlessly. "Don't give me that." Qin Feiyong sneered. Now, he naturally wouldn't believe it. Madman was instantly annoyed and said angrily, "Brat, don't go too far. If you provoke me, I'll really announce your identity." "You," Qin Feiyong was furious in his heart. Other than threatening him, what else could he do? As a 7-foot man, isn't he ashamed? "Hurry up," Madman shouted impatiently. "I really owe you in my previous life." Qin Feiyong glared fiercely at Madman, and then helplessly brought him to the Black Tortoise world. "That's more like it. Perform well like this. Maybe if I'm happy, I'll tell you everything about Qin Badian and Lu Zhongyang." Madman stood in the sky and looked at Qin Feiyong with a smug face and smiled. "Who are you trying to fool?" Qin Feiyong sneered and controlled the Black Tortoise world, silently shuttling through the night sky. "This spatial divine item, the more I look at it, the stranger it becomes." Madman crossed his arms and looked at the Black Tortoise world, muttering thoughtfully. "Don't let him see anything." Qin Feiyong muttered to himself and was quite worried. In fact, he had thought of bringing Madman to the castle. But the castle couldn't be exposed, because the castle's time laws were easier to distinguish. Once they entered the castle, Madman would definitely be able to sense the abnormality of time, which would be even more troublesome. Moreover, alchemy scripture, 6-word divine art, fire lotus, mermaid princess and others were all in the castle. He really didn't dare to take this risk. Sure enough, it was as expected. The deeper they went, the stronger the beasts they encountered. As for how strong they were, Qin Feiyong couldn't judge, because he still didn't understand the existence of the paragon god level. However, just the aura emitted by those beasts made him feel a fatal threat. In this place, if one didn't have enough strength or protection, they would definitely die. Around late at night, Qin Feiyong gradually discovered that the aura of the beasts seemed to be getting less and less. What was going on? Wait. He suddenly remembered the information he got from Long Qianyu's memory. Chapter 2101. According to Long Qianyu's memories, after entering the hinterland of the far west, there would be fewer and fewer beasts, because the Great Castle was in the hinterland. And because of the existence of the Great Castle, the entire hinterland was filled with a strange power that could steal life and erode the soul. It was because of this power that the beasts of the far west did not dare to enter the hinterland. Even if they entered the hinterland, they did not dare to stay for long. In other words, it was very likely that they had already entered the hinterland. Madman. Qin Feiyong turned his head to look at Madman, and the anger in his heart immediately rose. Not long after this guy entered the Black Tortoise world, he took out an armchair and lay on it, leisurely taking a nap. As if these things had nothing to do with him, Madman slowly opened his eyes, looked at Qin Feiyong and said, "Don't be so rude, call me senior brother." "Look at you now, how do you look like a senior brother?" Qin Feiyong rolled his eyes at him and said, "Stop talking nonsense. Let's go out and take a look." "Go out for what?" Madman was stunned. Qin Feiyong said, "I estimate that we should have already entered the hinterland of the far west. I want to go out and confirm it." "For such a small matter, can't you go out by yourself? Why did you call me?" Madman glared at Qin Feiyong and closed his eyes again. "Who is coming to the far west?" Qin Feiyong was furious. He stepped forward and grabbed Madman, and appeared above the glacier outside. Madman could not help but be angry. But before he could get angry, a trace of surprise crawled on his face as he scanned the surroundings. In this world, he really did sense an invisible force. This power had an extremely strong penetrating power. It could actually ignore his physical defense, enter his body, steal his life, and erode his soul. As expected, we have reached the hinterland of the far west. Madman muttered. Why was it so quiet? Why didn't Qin Feiyong say anything? When he looked at Qin Feiyong, his expression changed drastically. He saw that Qin Feiyong had already turned into an ice sculpture. The madman hurriedly waved his hand and a barrier appeared. However, although there was a barrier separating the cold current, the ice on Qin Feiyong's body did not show any signs of melting. "Don't tell me he's already dead." The madman's eyelids twitched as he realized he had been careless. This was the hinterland of the far west, and the cold current was countless times more terrifying than outside. Let alone Qin Feiyong, who was a perfect war god. Even a half-step divine monarch like him felt his body stiffen. Boom! He hurriedly circulated his divine power to melt the ice on Qin Feiyong's body. Several breaths later, the ice finally melted. Qin Feiyong shivered and curled up. He looked up at Madman and said angrily, "Do you know that I almost died? Are you blaming me?" Madman pursed his lips. "Who should I blame if not you?" Qin Feiyong's eyes were red. The moment he came out, his consciousness was swallowed by the cold current, and his entire body fell into darkness. He didn't even have time to enter the Black Tortoise world again. In those few short breaths, he had truly felt the aura of death. "Isn't it fine now? Don't be like a sissy and make a fuss." Madman glanced at Qin Feiyong with disdain and then scanned the void again. His brows gradually furrowed. "I'm a sissy?" Qin Feiyong was so angry that he went crazy. What kind of person was this? He was almost frozen to death and he was still mocking him like this? "I'll endure it." Qin Feiyong took a deep breath and suppressed the grievance in his heart as he scanned the surroundings. Immediately, his eyes were also filled with bewilderment. The barrier formed by Madman blocked the fatal cold current, but it couldn't block that invisible force. It was a bit exaggerated. It could even penetrate a barrier made of divine power? Madman frowned and turned to look at Qin Feiyong. We seem to be sure that we shouldn't have come to this place. You only know now. Qin Feiyong rolled his eyes. Why don't we go back now? Madman said. You must be joking. We've already come this far and we're still going back. Qin Feiyong said. Now his interest was piqued. Madman chuckled and said, if that's the case, then let's go. Qin Feiyong was about to bring Madman into the Black Tortoise world. But at this moment, the little boy's voice sounded in Qin Feiyong's mind again. Qin Feiyong, you can't come to the Black Tortoise world again. There was a tone that didn't allow for discussion. Why? Qin Feiyong was stunned and asked in surprise. The penetrative power of this force is beyond imagination. If you don't use your origin power, even the Black Tortoise world won't be able to block it. The little boy said. So terrifying? Qin Feiyong was shocked. The little boy said, you can try going to the castle. The castle is a heaven-defying divine artifact with the power of law. It might be able to block it. This? Qin Feiyong hesitated. Let's go, what are you still standing there for? Seeing Qin Feiyong standing there motionless, Madman couldn't help but urge him. I can't go, my spatial divine artifact can block the corrosion of this force. Qin Feiyong shook his head. Madman was stunned and frowned. Then what should we do? How would I know? Qin Feiyong said angrily. He wasn't omnipotent, so why ask him everything? Then let's try walking for a while? Let's see how strong this force is. Madman frowned and suggested. That's the only way. Qin Feiyong nodded. In short, he would never bring Madman to the castle. Although Madman had been helping him during this period of time, who knew Madman's true purpose? It was better to be on guard. The two converged their auras and flew deeper into the castle at their fastest speed. As they went deeper and deeper, they could no longer sense the aura of the beasts. But the invisible force was becoming more and more terrifying. First, the feeling of seizing life force and eroding the soul wasn't too obvious. But gradually, Qin Feiyong and Madman could clearly sense it. After about 1,000,000 miles, Qin Feiyong's face suddenly lit up. He pointed to the glacier in front and shouted, look, the gray castle is in front. Madman looked up and was slightly stunned. Other than the endless glacier, there was nothing else in front of them. Where is the castle? Are you seeing things? Madman looked at Qin Feiyong and frowned. No way. Qin Feiyong rubbed his eyes and looked again. There was indeed no castle. What was going on? Madman looked at Qin Feiyong and his face suddenly changed. Not good, it should be that force that has already eroded your consciousness, causing you to hallucinate just now. Hallucination? Qin Feiyong was shocked. It seemed that his consciousness was indeed in a trance. You can't go any further. Madman stopped and said in a deep voice. Qin Feiyong was a little unwilling. Then should I just give up like this? Madman pondered for a moment and said, your space divine item should be able to hold on for a while. Go in and hide first. I will go take a look alone. Is this okay? Qin Feiyong was a little worried. It's okay. With my cultivation I can still hold on for a while. After Madman finished speaking, he turned into a stream of light and disappeared from Qin Feiyong's sight without looking back. Qin Feiyong's eyes flashed and he also entered the castle. Everyone was cultivating in seclusion. Qin Feiyong didn't disturb everyone and silently sensed the castle. In the end, he found that the castle could really block the erosion of that force. He finally let out a sigh of relief. After pondering for a moment, he drove the castle and chased after Madman. He definitely couldn't catch up. After all, Madman's speed had far surpassed his. However, he was more and more curious about the mysterious gray castle. Qindage. Suddenly, Fire Lotus opened her eyes and walked to Qin Feiyong's side. During this period of seclusion, Fire Lotus had also broken through to perfect war god level. What's wrong? Qin Feiyong turned to look at Fire Lotus and asked with a smile. Fire Lotus looked at the glacier outside through the image in the void. She shook her head and said worriedly, You shouldn't have followed Madman here. Qin Feiyong was slightly taken aback and asked, You know this place? I heard people in Ninth Heaven Palace say that the danger level of the Far West is comparable to the depths of the Sky Dragon Sea. Even if an absolute god came in, they might not be able to leave alive. Fire Lotus said. I see. With the castle and Black Tortoise World, it should be fine. Qin Feiyong smiled comfortingly. You're too optimistic. Fire Lotus shook her head and looked at the glacier outside. She let out a low sigh in her heart. At the same time, Madman sped along. His face was no longer as frivolous as before. It was incomparably serious. That was because that strange power was far more terrifying than he had expected. The vitality in his body was quickly draining. His soul was also being eroded. Suddenly, he looked at an ice mountain in front of him. That ice mountain was more than 1,000 feet high. At the peak of the mountain stood a black-haired old man. Grand Elder. Madman was taken aback and hurriedly flew towards the ice mountain. He shouted from afar, Old man, why are you here? However, the Grand Elder did not answer. He just smiled at him and waved at him as if calling him over. A trace of suspicion crept up Madman's brows. But suddenly, he seemed to have thought of something. He slammed on the brakes and stopped in the void. He rubbed his eyes and looked up again. The Grand Elder and the ice mountain had both disappeared. It really was an illusion. Madman's heart trembled. It seemed that even his consciousness was beginning to be eroded. But there was not even a shadow of the gray castle. Do I really have to give up? Madman muttered to himself. Suddenly, he turned around and looked at the void behind him. His eyes flashed and in the next moment, he disappeared without a trace. Space Divine Item. If Qin Feiyong was here, he would definitely run out and find Madman to settle the score. He clearly had a Space Divine Item, but he was still hiding it? Unfortunately, Qin Feiyong was still far behind and did not have the chance to see it. At the same time, in the central area of the hinterland, a huge gray castle stood on top of a glacier. It was surrounded by white snow. However, there was no snow on top of the gray castle. There was not even a piece of frost to be found. At this moment, a gray figure was standing on top of the castle looking ahead. He was looking in the direction of Qin Feiyong and Madman. I didn't expect someone to break in. It seems that the existence of this sovereign has already been known. The gray figure muttered and disappeared again. Not even a trace was left, as if he had never appeared. Chapter 2102. The night was as dark as ink. The howling snowstorm swept in all directions. In the void, the two spatial divine objects, one in front and one behind, quickly approached the location of the gray castle. About half an hour passed. The madman suddenly stopped in the void, looking at the scene in front of him, his eyes shining. The glacier was endless. A gray castle like an immemorial giant beast lay on top of the glacier, emitting a cold and mysterious aura. There really is an ancient castle, the madman murmured. After observing for a while and confirming that there was no danger, he rode the spatial divine object and carefully approached the gray castle. Soon, he appeared at the gate of the ancient castle. The stone gate was tightly closed, releasing a strong aura. There were no windows in the entire gray castle, so there was no way to see the situation inside. I was born in the North Domain since I was young, but I didn't know that there was such a castle in the far west. The madman rode the spatial divine object, carefully observing the gray castle, his eyes full of curiosity. Finally, he came to a conclusion. This castle was not simple. According to his judgment, it should be a divine artifact. And its level was not low, otherwise it would not be able to remain undamaged in such a harsh environment. But how to get in? After pondering for a while, the madman gritted his teeth, left the spatial divine object, and appeared outside the gate. His entire body was suddenly drowned by that strange power. In an instant, his strong and full body shriveled, and dense wrinkles appeared on his face. His hair also quickly turned white. In an instant he aged more than half. One must know, he was still a half-step supreme god. From this one could imagine how terrifying the strange energy that permeated this place was. The madman was also shocked, and didn't dare to stay for a moment. immediately entering the spatial divine object. He was still scared. Not only was more than half of his life force stolen, even his soul was wrapped by that strange power. A heart-wrenching pain came from his soul. It took him a lot of effort to refine that strange power. What should I do? While recovering his life force, he racked his brains to think of a way. Let's try again. A moment passed. He suddenly gritted his teeth, left the spatial divine object again, and appeared in front of the stone gate. The same situation as before happened again. His life force and soul were being plundered and eroded by that strange power. However, he didn't care at all. Blood-colored divine power surged out. Open for me. With a roar, he punched the stone door. Rumble. A loud explosion rang out, shaking the heavens and the earth. However, the stone door did not budge at all. The great castle didn't even tremble in the slightest. So sturdy. Madman was dumbfounded. After he came back to his senses, he didn't dare stay any longer. He quickly hid in a spatial divine object and immediately sat cross-legged on the ground to refine the strange energy that was corroding his soul. This time he stayed longer than before. The life force that was robbed was naturally more than the last time. His hair was white and mottled, and he was emaciated. His body was also extremely stooped, and he looked like an old man on the verge of death. After a while, only then did the madman refine the strange power in his sea of consciousness. Immediately after, he stood up and looked at the gray castle's stone door with fear in his eyes. I can't go out again or I'll definitely lose my life. Even his voice had become extremely hoarse. Although the strange power could be refined, the life force that was robbed was not so easy to recover. Now, there wasn't much life force left in his body. If he went out again, he would definitely die on the spot. But the great castle was right in front of him. He was unwilling to give up just like that. I can't rush. Let's recover the life force I lost first. Madman whispered, trying to calm himself down. Then he took out a pill. This pill was emerald green and had a total of 8 patterns. It emitted an extremely majestic life force. This was the Divine Life Pill. The Divine Life Pill not only had the effects of healing pills, bone replenishing pills, regeneration pills, and other pills, but it also had the ability to recover life force. Madman took the Divine Life Pill and closed his eyes to cultivate. The effect of the Divine Life Pill was immediate. After the madman took it, his old face and snow-white hair began to slowly recover. Time passed bit by bit. For hours later, Madman finally recovered his original appearance. He was full of energy. He opened his eyes and looked at the stone door again. Damn it! But suddenly, his body trembled. He seemed to have forgotten about Qin Feiyang. After so long, would he have become a dry corpse? It's over. When Qin Batian and Lu Zhengyang know that I killed their descendant, they will definitely come to settle the score with me. No, I have to go back and take a look. If I can find his body, I can answer to Qin Batian and the others. Madman patted his head and immediately drove the spatial divine item back the way he came. However, after turning around, it hadn't even flown half a mile when the spatial divine object suddenly seemed to have collided with something and was actually bounced back. Madman was startled. He looked up and saw a gray light screen appear in the void outside. This light screen flickered with a dim light and blocked the way in front. What's going on? Madman was surprised. He waved his hand and the screen quickly turned to look in several other directions. Finally, he was shocked to find that it was not a simple light screen but a gray barrier. The barrier, with the gray castle as the center, covered an area of 1 mile around. In other words, now he was trapped inside the barrier. When did this barrier appear? Why can't I feel anything? Madman glanced at the barrier with a dumbfounded expression. At the same time, outside the barrier in the void. Why is there a barrier? Qin Feiyang stood in the castle and looked at the gray barrier in astonishment. Although his speed was much slower than Madman's, it had still been more than 4 hours. So just now he finally came here. And he just happened to see the gray barrier appear. Originally, he also wanted to get close to the gray castle, but the appearance of the barrier made him stop decisively. In other words, Madman actually helped him out and saved him from being trapped. This kind of barrier won't appear for no reason. Something must have hit it to trigger the barrier and make it appear. Fire Lotus glanced at the barrier and said, "That's true." Qin Feiyang nodded. What could it be? Wait. Suddenly, Qin Feiyang turned to look at Fire Lotus and asked, "We don't seem to have seen Madman along the way, right?" "No." Fire Lotus shook her head. Could it be? Qin Feiyang looked at the barrier again and said in surprise, "It can't be him, right?" Because they were both in the space divine object and couldn't see each other. Neither Qin Feiyang nor Madman knew that the other was here. Compared to the relatively calm Qin Feiyang and Fire Lotus, Madman was panicking at this moment. He lowered his head and muttered to himself, "If I knew earlier, I wouldn't have left that kid behind. What should we do now?" Qin Batian and Lu Zhengyang are both ruthless people. When they hear the news of Qin Feiyang's death, they will definitely come to settle the score with me. He already thought that Qin Feiyang had died. Of course, he couldn't be blamed for thinking so. After all, this was the Far West. And it was the hinterland that was shrouded in that strange force. And even Qin Feiyang himself said that the space divine object couldn't stop the invasion of this strange force. So in Madman's view, Qin Feiyang definitely wouldn't survive. What a headache. If I knew earlier, I wouldn't have brought him here. In the future, how am I going to explain to Qin Batian and the others? Madman rubbed his forehead and looked at the gray castle, suddenly burning with anger. It's all because of this thing. Today, if I don't break this damn thing and see what's inside, I won't give up. Without a doubt, the gray castle became his target to vent his anger. Shua. The next moment, he appeared outside the stone door, his eyes emitting a sharp light. "Shatter for me." With his roar, a golden light emerged, carrying a destructive aura, and blasted towards the stone door. Clang! Boom! The stone door trembled. It works? Madman's eyes suddenly flashed. However, before he had time to be happy, his body stiffened and he immediately cursed. Because the stone door only trembled a little before returning to normal. Looking at the place where the golden light bombarded, there was only a white scratch. Damn you! Madman could only hide in the space divine object again. It's really him. Outside the barrier, looking at Madman who appeared and disappeared out of thin air, Qin Feiyang's face suddenly had a trace of anger. He knew that this bastard was ignoring him. Fire Lotus glanced at Qin Feiyang and said with a smile, "The level of his space divine object is not low." Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. When Madman appeared just now, he also noticed that more than half of Madman's life force was taken away. From this, it could be seen that the strange force inside the barrier was far stronger than outside. And Madman's space divine object could block the strange force inside the barrier, so it was definitely not an ordinary space divine object. Madman is imprisoned. And from the looks of it, he has wanted to break the stone door more than once. But until now, the stone door has not been opened. I'm afraid that even with us, we won't be able to open it. Why don't we go back first? Fire Lotus suggested. Then what about Madman? Qin Feiyang asked. He asked for it, so why should we care? Besides, Madman's life is not in danger if he hides in the space divine object. When we go back, we will report to First Elder and Shangguan Fenglan. They will naturally think of a way to save Madman. Fire Lotus said. This? Qin Feiyang hesitated. Since they were already here, he really didn't want to leave like this. The most important thing was, if there was any treasure hidden in this gray castle, then when First Elder and Shangguan Fenglan came and got the treasure, he would definitely not have a share. If only Chang Shui was here. With Chang Shui's ability, he will definitely be able to break this stone door. Qin Feiyang sighed. Chapter 2103. The key point is that Chang Shui is not in your hands. Let's go. There may not be any treasures in this castle. Maybe there is a Grim Reaper sitting there. Fire Lotus said. Grim Reaper? Qin Feiyang turned his head to look at Fire Lotus, his eyes full of surprise. Look at the strange power emitted by this gray castle. Even the madman can't withstand it. It can be seen that this castle is definitely not an ordinary thing. Then what is the gray figure hiding in the castle if not the Grim Reaper? Fire Lotus said. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while and nodded. It makes sense, our lives are more important, let's retreat. After saying that, He turned the castle around and flew away. Boom! However, the castle seemed to be hitting something. Immediately after, a gray light curtain appeared out of thin air and bounced the castle back. Qin Feiyong's eyes widened. Why is there another light curtain? He quickly changed the image and was shocked to find that another enchantment had appeared at this moment. This enchantment was even bigger than the one that trapped the madman. Not only did it imprison Qin Feiyong, but even the madman and the enchantment that trapped him were also enveloped. In other words, now it was equivalent to two enchantments. The first enchantment trapped the madman. The second enchantment trapped Qin Feiyong. Oh no! The people in the Grey Castle must have noticed that we have entered the far west and set up a trap here in advance, Fire Lotus said in a deep voice. Qin Feiyong's heart also sank. If it was really as Fire Lotus said, then they were already trapped here. At the same time, the madman also heard the movement outside and quickly changed the image, locking onto the direction of the castle. What's the situation? Another enchantment actually appeared. His face was also full of surprise. Could it be? There was someone else? If there was someone else, who could it be? Wait, it couldn't be Qin Feiyong, right? Welcome to this sovereign's domain of death. Suddenly, a hoarse laugh sounded in the barrier and entered the ears of Qin Feiyong and the madman. The two of them shifted their vision at the same time and locked onto the Grey Castle. However, they saw nothing outside the Grey Castle. That hoarse laughter seemed to come out of nowhere. Now I'll give you a chance to live. The hoarse voice sounded again. Just as he finished speaking, the barrier that trapped the madman suddenly dissipated. However, the enchantment that trapped Qin Feiyong showed no signs of dissipating. In other words, at this moment there was only one barrier here. Qin Feiyong and the madman were trapped in the same barrier. This domain of death is my strongest technique. With your strength you will never be able to break it. So, I'll kindly advise you not to do useless work. The mysterious man's voice echoed in the bounded domain again. Death domain? Qin Feiyong and madman frowned. Now please come out first. I don't like to speak while looking at the air. The mysterious man said. Looking at the air? Qin Feiyong raised his eyebrows. Listening to what he said, this mysterious man was looking at them now, but there wasn't even a shadow inside the barrier. Could it be Qin Feiyong suddenly looked at the Grey Castle, his eyes flashing? Was it the grey figure that gave Long Tianyu the potential pill? Come out. I've already dispersed the power of death. I won't rob your vitality and erode your divine soul, the mysterious man said again. It's already dispersed? Qin Feiyong glanced at the void outside in surprise. He really didn't dare to go out and take the risk. One had to know. The strange power here, even the madman, a half-step divine lord, couldn't last for a few breaths, let alone him. If the mysterious man was lying to him, wouldn't going out be the same as courting death? The madman was also hesitating. But in the end he finally gritted his teeth and left the space divine item, appearing inside the barrier. Inside the barrier the strange power had really disappeared. Seeing that the madman was safe and sound, Qin Feiyong was completely relieved. However, just as Qin Feiyong was about to leave the castle, Fire Lotus said, Qin Dage, take me with you. Take you with me? Qin Feiyong frowned. Maybe I can help. Fire Lotus said. This? Qin Feiyong hesitated. Even if I can't help, you can send me to the castle as soon as possible. There won't be any danger. Fire Lotus said with a smile. Okay. Qin Feiyong nodded and said, but you have to promise me that you will always stay by my side and not act on your own. Okay. Fire Lotus smiled. Qin Feiyong waved his hand, rolled up Fire Lotus and appeared not far away from the madman. It's really you. Seeing Qin Feiyong appear, the madman was overjoyed and hurriedly ran in front of the two, saying, You really scared me to death. I thought you were already dead. Qin Feiyong rolled his eyes. Wait, that's not right. Didn't you say that your space divine item can't block this strange power? Why is nothing happening now? The madman frowned. Qin Feiyong said indifferently, Didn't you also say that you don't have a space divine item? The madman was stunned, shook his head and smiled bitterly, saying, Okay, pretend I didn't ask. Qin Feiyong rolled his eyes at the madman, looked at the Grey Castle and said coldly, We have all come out, but what about you? Are you going to hide in there forever? If you want to see this sovereign's true face, let's see if you have the qualifications. As the mysterious man's voice fell, clouds of gray fog suddenly appeared in the barrier, floating in the void, emitting a gloomy and evil aura. Immediately after, rumble. In the clouds of gray fog, there was a deafening sound. It was not the sound of aura erupting, nor was it the sound of battle, but the sound of footsteps. And there was more than one deafening. Moreover, there was also a terrifying evil aura, as if countless devils were tearing the barrier between heaven and earth, climbing up from hell. What is that? Qin Feiyang and the other two stood together, staring at the gray fog with vigilance. The footsteps were getting closer and closer, and more deafening. Qin Feiyang and the other two's heartbeats were beating at the same frequency as the footsteps. Even the qi and blood in their body were surging uncontrollably. Be careful, the madman secretly warned. Qin Feiyang nodded. There was no need to think to know that something bad was going to happen. About a few breaths later, boom! Suddenly, a huge beast shadow walked out from one of the clouds of gray fog. The pupils of the three shrank. It turned out to be a frost ape. It was exactly the same as the 16 frost apes they encountered at the beginning. It had 9 heads like a small mountain, standing in the void opposite them, exuding a terrifying aura. Be careful, it also has a half-step paragon god cultivation base, the madman whispered. Half-step paragon god. Qin Feiyang's body stiffened. How strong was this mysterious man to be able to summon a half-step paragon god beast? However, an even more shocking scene was yet to come. In the other gray fog, beasts also walked out one after another. And there was more than one kind. There was a snow leopard that was more than 10 meters in size. There was an ice python that was as huge as a mountain ridge. There was also a lion eagle that Qin Feiyang was more familiar with. Each of the lion-headed eagles was dozens of feet tall, comparable to a mountain. Wait, and there was no exception. These beasts were all half-step paragon god existences. The ferocious aura surged, pressing Qin Feiyang and Fire Lotus until they were almost out of breath. So many. Even the madman was shocked, because there were a total of 35 beasts that appeared in front of them in the end. Let's begin. The mysterious man's voice sounded. Boom. As the voice fell, the 35 beasts stepped on the void and charged toward Qin Feiyang and the other two. All of you back off. The madman shouted. 35 half-step paragon god beasts. With Qin Feiyang's current cultivation base, there was no room for him to fight back. Even just the fluctuations of the battle were enough to take his life. Hearing the madman's words, Qin Feiyang didn't dare to hesitate and immediately pulled Fire Lotus and retreated. When the two retreated to the edge of the realm of death, the madman waved his hand and a wave of divine power emerged, forming a divine power barrier that enveloped Qin Feiyang and Fire Lotus. This was naturally to protect Qin Feiyang and Fire Lotus. After all, the realm of death was only so big, and the battle of half-step paragon god was enough to spread millions of miles away. Therefore, no matter where they retreated, they couldn't escape the fate of being affected by the fluctuations of the battle. Therefore, they had to be prepared in advance. And Qin Feiyang and Fire Lotus's lives weren't in danger, so the madman could fight without any hesitation. In the blink of an eye, the 35 beasts had already charged in front of the madman, each exuding an aura that could destroy the world. This is interesting. The madman chuckled. Boom! Blood-colored divine power surged out like a tide. In an instant, the madman's aura changed greatly, as if he had become a different person. His eyes flashed red as if he was possessed by a demon god. His fiendish aura was even more terrifying than the 35 beasts. As he waved his hand, the blood-colored divine power gathered together. Clang! In the next instant, a palm-sized blood-colored square seal appeared. Blood Demon Seal. Fire Lotus might be unfamiliar with the Blood Demon Seal, but Qin Feiyang was very familiar with it, because the madman had used this divine art on Turtle King Island, and it was a peak divine art. I am invincible. Kill. The madman raised his head and laughed wildly. The Blood Devil Seal rushed into the sky and expanded in the wind. In an instant it turned into a giant seal that was several hundred feet long. Demonic aura spread in all directions. As he waved his hand, the blood demon seal descended with an aura that could destroy heaven and earth. Roar! The two frost apes roared and raised their thick and solid arms to meet the attack. Boom! Inside the enchantment, there was a loud explosion that shook the heavens and earth. The arms of the two frost apes were crushed by the blood devil seal on the spot. Blood and flesh flew everywhere. However, as if they didn't feel pain, they raised their other arm and threw it at the blood demon seal. Although the physical body and power of beasts were naturally stronger than humans, it was still a peak divine art. How could the body of flesh block it? The other arm also shattered with a crack. Blood splattered and dyed the ground red. But then, a scene that shocked the madman and Qin Feiyong even more appeared. The two frost apes' arms were shattered, but they still didn't have any intention of dodging. They didn't even scream. It was as if they really didn't know what pain was. What was even crazier was that after their arms shattered, not only did they not retreat, they used their bodies to charge at the blood demon seal. Chapter 2104. What's going on? Aren't they afraid of death? Qin Feiyong was puzzled. No. Fire Lotus shook her head and glanced at the two frost apes. Suddenly, she found that their eyes seemed to be empty. Could it be? Her gaze trembled as she quickly looked at the other 33 beasts. Their eyes were also empty. I see. She immediately understood and hurriedly shouted, "Madman, be careful. They are puppets." Puppets? Qin Feiyong was stunned. Madman was also stunned. The two carefully sized up the beasts. After Fire Lotus's reminder, they quickly noticed the clues. The 35 beasts not only had empty eyes but also no heartbeat. They were equivalent to corpses. No wonder they were so crazy. Corpses had no consciousness and were completely controlled by someone. In other words, at this moment, these beasts were secretly controlled by the mysterious person hiding in the gray castle. In the blink of an eye, the two frost apes had already collided with the blood devil seal. With a loud bang, the two frost apes' huge bodies exploded in the void. Flesh and blood splattered everywhere. The blood devil seal was not damaged at all. It carried a monstrous aura and continued to kill the other puppets. Boom! The remaining 32 beasts were also killed one after another. I was looking forward to it, but I didn't expect it to be a group of puppets. Madman waved his hand and the blood devil seal turned into a bloody light that floated above his head. The bloody light illuminated half the sky. Looking down on puppets? The mysterious person's voice sounded. Puppets can't activate their battle soul and can't use God techniques. With my means, killing them is like killing dogs. Madman sneered. Haha. The mysterious person couldn't help but laugh and said, "Don't worry, this is just an appetizer. The real show has yet to begin." Appetizer? Qin Feiyong's heart trembled as he swept his gaze towards the balls of gray mist floating in the air. Could it be that there were stronger puppets in the gray fog? "Come out!" the mysterious person shouted. Deafening footsteps could be heard coming from within the gray fog. Boom! In the next moment, more and more ferocious beasts appeared. Just like the 35 ferocious beasts from before, its eyes were empty and there was no heartbeat. However, the auras they emitted were as different as heaven and earth. An initial paragon god. Madman's pupils constricted as he looked at them one by one. In the end, he discovered that there were as many as 50 fierce beasts. Can Madman withstand it? Qin Feiyong was quite worried. 50 beasts that had just become paragon gods. Even if it was a puppet, it was not something that ordinary people could deal with. If they were all alive, Madman would definitely have a hard time. After all, there are too many of them. But puppets, with Madman's methods, it shouldn't be a problem, Fire Lotus whispered. She then looked at the gray castle, a cold light flashing in the depths of her eyes. "Go," the mysterious man said. The 50 ferocious beasts instantly turned into a torrent and crazily pounced at Madman. "No matter how many come, I'll kill them all." The madman laughed arrogantly. Without any fear, he charged over. He wasn't afraid of a mere puppet. Qin Feiyong watched nervously. In the meantime, he was even more afraid of the mysterious man in the gray castle. One must know, whether it was a half-step paragon god or an initial paragon god, they were all extremely terrifying existences. And this person actually controlled so many puppets of this level. Just how strong was he? It was hard to imagine. As Fire Lotus said, this person was indeed a terrifying devil comparable to the Grim Reaper. Don't mind it. Suddenly, the mysterious man's voice sounded again. Immediately after, an invisible force crashed down, and the barrier that the madman had set up earlier instantly collapsed. Qin Feiyang's expression suddenly changed, because as soon as the barrier was broken, the fluctuations of the battle between madman and those puppets were overwhelming. Qin Feiyang immediately felt the threat of death. Quickly go to the castle, Fire Lotus shouted. But before Fire Lotus's voice faded, another invisible force descended and shrouded the two. Then, the two felt their bodies become light. The next moment they both appeared outside the barrier. Huh. The two were stunned. What was this situation? Fire Lotus came back to her senses and said, Qin Dage, take this opportunity to leave. Qin Feiyang nodded. However, before they could enter the castle, another gray barrier appeared out of thin air and trapped them again. Damn it. Fire Lotus glanced at the barrier, her face gloomy. Don't worry, there will be a way. Qin Feiyang secretly comforted her and turned to look at the gray castle, saying, Show me what you have. You have guts. But I don't know how strong you are. The mysterious man smiled sinisterly. Inside the barrier where Qin Feiyang and Fire Lotus were, clouds of black fog immediately appeared. Boom! A series of loud and clear footsteps resounded. Immediately after, from the black fog, beasts walked out one after another. Their strength was not strong, and they were all perfect war gods. Compared to the puppets that Madman was facing at the moment, it could be said that the difference was like heaven and earth. But their numbers were several times more than the puppets that Madman was facing at the moment. Qin Feiyang glanced at them and estimated that there were at least 200 beasts. Fire Lotus glanced at the beasts and said in a low voice, Qin Dage, let me do it, so that I don't get injured and expose my identity. No. Although these beasts are all puppets, their cultivation is higher than yours. You are not their opponent. Don't worry about me. A group of perfect war god puppets can't injure me. After Qin Feiyang finished speaking, he decisively sent Fire Lotus to the castle. Only in the castle could he guarantee her safety. You're quite affectionate. Not bad, not bad, this sovereign appreciates you. The mysterious man laughed hoarsely. Qin Feiyang turned a deaf ear and glanced at the beasts. His aura erupted like a volcano as he took the initiative to attack. Kill! The mysterious man's roar also sounded. More than 200 ferocious beasts suddenly turned into a torrent, and rushed toward Qin Feiyang from all directions. Humph! Qin Feiyang snorted from his nose and had no intention to defend at all. Divine power gushed out and attacked the beasts. He didn't show any mercy. Every time he attacked he could kill a puppet. For a moment, broken corpses and limbs flew all over the sky. Blood dyed the sky red. Boom! Suddenly, just as he smashed a puppet with his palm, two ferocious apes pounced at him fiercely and their millstone-sized fists fiercely hit his back. But Qin Feiyang's face only turned slightly pale, and he didn't suffer any actual damage. After being tempered by two heavenly tribulations, not only did his strength exceed ordinary people, the willfulness and strength of his body were also comparable to a high-grade divine artifact. So, the attacks of the two ferocious apes didn't have any lethality in front of him. From the beginning to the end he didn't get angry. He turned around and directly killed the two ferocious apes. Because there was no need to get angry with these puppets that had no consciousness and no emotions. Even if you were angry they wouldn't understand. At this moment he was like a god of death, his expression extremely cold. It was completely a one-sided massacre. Of course, he didn't use the power of the divine dragon. But the other two types of divine power were enough for him to deal with these puppets. And the battle on the madman's side was more intense than Qin Feiyang's side. Although the madman was very arrogant, he didn't dare to lower his guard in the face of 50 early-stage supreme god puppets and fought with all his strength. About 100 breaths later, Qin Feiyang stood proudly in the void, his aura like a rainbow. His whole body was covered in blood, as if he was bathed in a rain of blood. The more than 200 ferocious beasts had all been killed. The blood on his body was from those ferocious beasts. Below the glacier, there were mountains of bones piled up, and the pungent smell of blood filled the entire death region. Die for me. It was also at this moment. The madman's violent roar sounded. Qin Feiyong turned his head and saw the head of a ferocious beast being smashed into pieces by the madman's punch. His strength is indeed not simple, Qin Feiyong murmured. With a half-step Supreme God cultivation, killing a early-stage Supreme God ferocious beast, even if it was a puppet, was enough to be praised. It seems that this lord has underestimated you a little. The mysterious man's voice sounded, echoing in the barrier for a long time. I also want to see how strong I am now. Qin Feiyong sneered. When he was still a early-stage war god, he could already kill a half-step Supreme God. What was a mere perfect war god? One must know. He hadn't activated the six-word divine art yet. The six-word divine art could ignore the barrier of a large realm. It was estimated that even if it was a perfect war god, he could still fight with the six-word divine art. Haha, what an arrogant brat. The mysterious man laughed hoarsely and said, "This lord will fulfill your wish." As soon as his voice faded, another ferocious beast roared out from the gray fog. Their cultivation had reached the level of a half-step Supreme God. Not enough, not enough. Qin Feiyong waved his hand, and a wisp of blood-red light streaked across the sky like lightning, entering the head of a ferocious beast. Crack! The ferocious beast's head shattered on the spot. Following closely, that wisp of blood-red light attacked the next ferocious beast. None of the ferocious beasts could withstand the blood-red light's attack and were instantly destroyed. This was the power of the kill formula. Even though it was only formed by a wisp of killing intent, it still had a heaven-defying divine power. And now, he could only activate the kill formula, battle formula, advance formula, and return formula. Although he was only one step away from a half-step Supreme God, a half-step Supreme God had already surpassed the War God level. Therefore, divine arts such as the Divine Dragon formula, the Fire Phoenix formula, and the End of the Void formula were unable to display their original power. In other words, these divine arts could not cause harm to a half-step Supreme God. Of course, if Qin Feiyong really went all out, even if he didn't use the six-word divine art, he would still be able to fight against a half-step Supreme God. However, this way he would definitely be injured and bleed. This was not what he wanted to see. Therefore, he was more straightforward and directly revealed the six-word divine art. Kill one that came out. In the end, it was really like that. Those puppets only revealed half of their bodies in the gray fog before they were mercilessly shattered by the blood-red light. Chapter 2105. Fuck so fierce. Looking at Qin Feiyong killing gods and devils, Madman couldn't help but be dumbfounded. But when he noticed the wisp of blood grace, he smiled in relief. He had personally experienced the might of the blood-colored fleeting grace. He knew the terrifying power of blood grace. This daddy can't lose to him. Trump card, is it? Who doesn't have one? The corners of Madman's mouth curled up, and a wisp of golden light appeared, streaking across the sky like lightning. One of the beasts that had just reached the Supreme God realm was instantly killed. Kid, let's compete and see who can kill more. Madman laughed wildly. Qin Feiyong looked at Madman and asked with a smile, "Is there a prize? You rascal, you really want to take advantage of me at any time and place." Madman rolled his eyes. "You are an influential figure in our Nine Heavens Palace. Only a fool wouldn't take advantage of you. No prize, I won't do it." Qin Feiyong laughed. Madman snorted coldly, "If you don't want to do it, then don't. This daddy will suffer a loss." What loss? Qin Feiyong didn't understand. Look at your opponent and then look at this daddy's opponent. They are both Supreme God level puppets. In terms of numbers, I definitely can't compare to you. If you want to compete, then let's compete in quality. 1 billion soul stones, do you dare? Madman's face was full of provocation. Compete in quality? Qin Feiyong's face twitched. If they competed in quality, then he would definitely lose. Because no matter how many he killed, it couldn't compare to a puppet that had just reached the Supreme God level. After all, these puppets he killed were only half-step divine lords. If he still competed, it would be equivalent to giving 1 billion soul stones to Madman. Only a fool would do such a losing deal. Coward. Madman despised. Don't provoke me, it's useless. If you want to compete, then let's compete in quantity. Qin Feiyong disdained. Madman rolled his eyes fiercely. If they competed in quantity, he would definitely lose. Because Qin Feiyong had already killed more puppets than him. The two of them were talking and laughing, and it didn't seem like they were fighting at all. What two arrogant brats. This sovereign wants to see how long you can laugh for. The mysterious man laughed angrily. This was simply a humiliation to him. As the mysterious man's voice fell, the ferocious beast that roared out of the black fog seemed to have its strength increased by a level. The puppet that Qin Feiyong faced was shockingly at the early Divine Lord realm. The madman's puppet was at the level of a lesser paragon god. They were densely packed and innumerable. He killed wave after wave just like a beast tide. There was no end to it. Not enough, not enough. However, Qin Feiyong felt no pressure at all. The blood-red light was magnificent and unstoppable. The puppets that the madman was facing at this moment had already reached the level of perfection god. The puppets that Qin Feiyong was facing had also reached the level of perfection god. In other words, Qin Feiyong had now crossed a major realm. But whether it was the madman or Qin Feiyong, they were invincible. Of course, they were able to do this because their opponents were all puppets. Because puppets couldn't use divine arts, couldn't activate soul suppressing, and didn't have divine weapons. They fought purely by relying on their physical body and strength. If these puppets were replaced by living people, it would definitely be a different situation. Because living people could use all kinds of methods like them. For example, divine arts, divine weapons, and so on. But even so, it could already reflect how terrifying the power of the blood-colored long sword and halberd was. However, the two of them also slowly felt the pressure. Because there were too many of them, they couldn't kill them all. If this continued, sooner or later they would be exhausted to death. And the mysterious man seemed to have the same plan, constantly summoning puppets to kill the two of them. Unknowingly, the sky began to gradually turn white. In other words, Qin Feiyong and the madman had been fighting non-stop for an entire night. The two death realms had become mountains of corpses and seas of blood. How many puppets do you have? The madman roared. He was already exhausted. A lot, very fast. You can't kill them all in a year and a half. The mysterious man laughed. Can't kill them all in a year and a half? How many puppets do you have? Qin Feiyong was stunned and asked, These beasts, did you turn them into puppets after killing them? In this world, there is a kind of control secret technique. As long as you are controlled by this secret technique, you can instantly turn the other party into a puppet, the mysterious man said. Control secret technique? Qin Feiyong raised his eyebrows. Could it be the puppet technique? No. Although the puppet technique could also turn the other party into a puppet, their life would not disappear. And the secret technique that the mysterious man mastered was to erase the other party's life and turn them into a corpse. It was really a vicious secret technique. But in comparison, it seemed that the puppet technique was a little more advanced. Because under the control of the puppet technique, even if the other party became a puppet, they could still use divine arts, battle souls, and so on. Of course, in terms of cruelty, the puppet technique was definitely not as good as the secret technique that the mysterious man mastered. There aren't many perfection paragon gods in the entire northern region, and you actually have so many puppets. Who exactly are you? The madman said in a deep voice. Haha, in the current ancient realm, there aren't many perfection paragon gods, but in the previous era there were as many as dogs. The mysterious man laughed sinisterly. The previous era? Qin Feiyong and the madman looked at each other, their eyes full of surprise. That's right. Although the previous era ended 100 million years ago, the living beings of the previous era were not extinct. And I was one of them, the mysterious man said, his hoarse voice suddenly becoming incomparably old. 100 million years ago? The previous era? What are you talking about? The madman frowned. You are all too weak now and are not qualified to know these secrets. You'd better think about how to survive in the realm of death. The mysterious man laughed sinisterly. The madman said angrily, Didn't you say that you would give us a chance to live? Yes. As long as you can last a month in the realm of death, I will let you go. The mysterious man said. A month. Qin Feiyang and the madman were dumbfounded. How was this possible? They were already exhausted after one night, let alone an entire month. If they had time to rest in the middle, it would be fine. But the mysterious man did not intend to let them rest at all. Continuously killing for a month without rest, with their ability, it was simply impossible. The mysterious man was determined to exhaust them to death. Damn it. It has always been me teasing others. No one dares to tease me. You want me to kill for a month, so I will kill for a month? Give you so much face. Kid, let's go to the space treasure, ignore him. The madman said angrily. Qin Feiyang also felt that it made sense. There was no need to be led by the nose by this person. Enter the space treasure? Then you might as well try and see if I have a way to kill you. The mysterious man sneered. Don't be scared by him, let's go. Madman angrily roared at Qin Feiyang before teleporting and disappearing without a trace. Qin Feiyang glanced at the gray castle and also disappeared in a flash. Really two disobedient young people. The mysterious man sighed. Clang! All of a sudden, the gray castle on the glacier bloomed with dazzling divine light. Immediately after, the gray divine light surged like a tide in the two realms of death. Inside the castle, Qin Feiyang immediately felt that the gray divine light was breaking the castle's defense bit by bit and slowly penetrating. Chapter 2106. Even the castle can't block it? Qin Feiyang turned pale with fright. The gray divine light seeped in, and a strange force quickly spread in the castle. Not only Qin Feiyang himself, Fire Lotus, Mermaid Princess, and White-Eyed Wolf were also rapidly aging. This was a sign that their vitality was being robbed, and that strange force was still crazily eroding their divine souls. Little Qin Zi, think of a way. If this goes on, we will all become jerky. Feiyang. No one was in the mood to cultivate in seclusion now. They all got up and looked at Qin Feiyang in horror. But there was one person who didn't have fear in her eyes, but there was a trace of anger. This person was Fire Lotus. She stared at the gray castle outside through the screen. There was a trace of hostility between her eyebrows, but Qin Feiyang and the others didn't notice it because of the mask. But suddenly, the divine light of the gray castle dissipated. That strange force also quickly receded like the tide. Do you understand now? In front of me, no matter where you hide, it's useless. Now, I will count to 3. If you don't come out, then don't blame me for being merciless. 1, 2, 3. Just as the number 3 appeared, Qin Feiyang and the madman appeared in the realm of death. There was no other way. They could only come out, because even if they hid in the divine space item, they would only die. Especially Qin Feiyang, it would implicate the mermaid princess and the others. This was not what he wanted to see. Your divine space items are very good, but unfortunately, they are all sealed and can't block my death force. The mysterious man smiled coldly. What? Sealed? Qin Feiyang looked at the madman in shock. He didn't expect that this person's divine space item was also sealed. Could it be that it was also a heaven-defying divine object like the castle? Don't say. It was really possible. Otherwise, why would the madman keep hiding it, afraid that he would find out? The madman stared at the gray castle and said, in other words, we have no choice. Yes, but don't blame me. You can only blame yourselves for overestimating yourselves and barging into the far west. Let's continue. The mysterious man laughed hoarsely. More puppets came out from the gray mist, letting out roars. As for the madman, he was still a perfect transcendent. However, Qin Feiyang's puppet was a half-step transcendent god. Qin Feiyang's expression changed. Bastard, he's just a perfect war god. How can he defeat a half-step paragon god? Madman roared as well. This is the price for your disobedience. If he dares to play any more tricks, he'll have to face early, minor, or even great perfection paragon puppets. The mysterious man laughed mockingly. Damn you! The madman was enraged. He grabbed the halberd and like a demonic god, he crushed the puppets one by one and charged towards the gray castle with murderous intent. Do you think I'm a pushover? When he reached the top of the gray castle, the madman roared. He grabbed the halberd with both hands and slashed at the gray castle. Clang! A loud noise shook the clouds. The halberd shattered on the spot. However, the gray castle was not damaged at all. How is this possible? The madman stared at the gray castle in a daze. With your strength you want to shake this divine artifact? The mysterious man's disdainful voice sounded. If I can't destroy this castle, then I'll split open this domain of death. The madman was furious. He condensed the halberd again and charged into the sky, slashing at the barrier. Boom! However, when the halberd landed on the barrier, it was as if it had hit a sponge. All the power and sharpness were dissolved by the domain of death. The madman couldn't help but feel a sense of powerlessness. What the hell is this thing? He didn't have time to think. Another large group of puppets charged at him. He quickly began to counterattack. Back to Qin Feiyang. In the face of a half-step peerless god puppet, he was flustered. Although the kill formula was heaven-defying and could ignore the barrier of major realms, there were already 7 minor realms between the perfect war god and the half-step supreme god. Even the kill formula was difficult to deal with. What's more, it wasn't just 1 or 2 puppets. It was a large group, countless of them. Boom! In less than 3 breaths, he was forced to activate the battle formula, the advance formula, and the return formula. But even so, he couldn't stop those puppets. Puff! Suddenly, a beast rushed behind Qin Feiyang like lightning. It raised its sharp claws and fiercely clawed at Qin Feiyang's back. The battle armor formed by the battle formula was cut open on the spot. Several bloody wounds appeared and blood gushed out, and that terrifying force even sent Qin Feiyang flying. He smashed into the glacier below, blood gushing out of his mouth. Oh no! Qin Feiyang's expression changed. The madman's expression also changed. Purple gold dragon blood exposed. That is, purple gold dragon blood. How is that possible? You have purple gold dragon blood? The mysterious man's exclamation also sounded, full of disbelief. Qin Feiyang climbed out of the ice and snow. He looked at the puppets in the sky, then looked at the gray castle and heaved a sigh of relief. It's good to be exposed, so I won't be restrained. Madman, hold on, I will make him pay. Qin Feiyang looked at the madman and said. He rushed into the sky, holding a blood-red long sword, and madly attacked those puppets. So what if you're a half-step supreme god? In the end, you're just puppets without consciousness. He roared angrily and slashed out with his sword. The ferocious beast that was charging at the front was actually split into 2 halves. Blood poured down like a waterfall. Open! Qin Feiyang's aura was like a rainbow. His long hair quickly turned blood red. Chapter 2107. Purple Gold Dragon Blood. The mysterious man stood in the gray castle, looking at Qin Feiyang outside, still shocked by the purple gold dragon blood. Of course. He also saw the scene of Qin Feiyang opening the killing zone. He was also very shocked. What was the background of this boy? Not only did he have the bloodline power of the purple gold divine dragon, but he also had such a terrifying killing technique. Suddenly, he waved his hand gently. Outside, in the death zone where Qin Feiyang was, a large number of puppets at the beginner level of the immortal realm immediately emerged from the gray light fog. Looking at those puppets, Qin Feiyang's face was full of disdain. With a slash of his sword, a puppet was directly split into 2, and the blood that flowed out was all absorbed by the blood-red long sword. In less than 10 breaths, all the puppets were slaughtered. Not a drop of blood was left. Even the blood in the corpses was forcibly sucked dry. However, there was still a lot of corpses and blood piled up below. Because the absorption also needed a process, it was impossible to suck all the blood in the death zone dry in an instant. After all, he had been killing for an entire night. The puppets that died in his hands could probably be piled up into dozens of mountains. Fortunately, the death zone where he was imprisoned was big enough, otherwise it wouldn't be able to pile up. He killed batch after batch. Suddenly, a group of puppets at the beginner level and the great perfection of the immortal realm rushed out at the same time. Qin Feiyang also seemed to be tireless, killing as many as came out as he could. Clang! The power of the blood-red longsword suddenly rose to a new level. He now had a kind of confidence. Even puppets at the great perfection of the immortal realm could be killed with one slash. What kind of killing technique is this? Its power has increased so much, why hasn't it stopped? Could it be, this kind of killing technique can be absorbed endlessly? The mysterious man was surprised. He simply summoned a large number of puppets at the great perfection of the immortal realm. There were more than 3,000 of them. That battle array could simply be described as apocalyptic. Absorbing their blood should be enough to increase the power of the killing technique to the same level as last time. Qin Feiyang's eyes lit up. The blood of a perfected god was far more potent than that of a perfected battle god or perfected divine lord. This was a super tonic for the kill formula. His blood-red hair fluttered in the wind as he wielded his blood-red sword and charged forward in a frenzy. Clang! Rumble! First, it was very difficult to deal with these puppets. His body was also riddled with wounds. There were even a few times when he almost lost his life. However, as it continued to absorb and grow, the blood-red sword began to display its prowess. About half an hour passed. You want to destroy my main body with just the two of you? In your dreams. The mysterious man was disdainful. However, at the next moment, when the halberd and blood-red longsword fell, the great castle was directly split in half with a deafening sound. How is this possible? The mysterious man exclaimed. His tone was no longer as arrogant as before, but with a strong sense of panic. Main body? Qin Feiyang and Madman looked at each other. Madman said in disbelief, "Is there something wrong with my ears? He actually said that this gray castle is his main body? I also heard him say that." Qin Feiyang said. Could it be? The two seemed to have thought of something and immediately looked at the gray castle, their eyes shining. Main body, originally they all thought that this mysterious man was a living person. However, they didn't expect that he was the weapon spirit of the gray castle. For a weapon spirit to be so powerful, this gray castle must be a heaven-defying weapon. Continue. Madman shouted. Qin Feiyang nodded. Although it was a heaven-defying weapon, this time it really angered him. Clang! The two once again held the halberd and blood-red longsword and slashed at the gray castle. The halberd was still fine. The blood-red longsword emitted a sharp aura, making the weapon spirit of the gray castle almost despair. Qin Feiyang, Madman, I will remember you, just wait for me. The weapon spirit roared with resentment, and the gray castle that was cut in half immediately rose into the air. Escape! Not a chance! Qin Feiyang and Madman shouted angrily. The halberd and blood-red longsword flew out of their hands. Clang! The gray castle, which had already been cut in half, was once again divided into two halves, becoming four halves. Its speed instantly dropped by a large margin. Qin Feiyang and Madman waved their hands and recalled the blood-red longsword and the halberd. Then, using the auxiliary technique, they chased after the gray castle like lightning and blocked it from the front and back. Damn it, damn it. If I knew earlier, I would have killed you at the first moment. The weapon spirit roared again and again. There is no such thing as if you knew earlier. But we knew that even if we could hold on for a month, you would definitely not let us go in the end. Madman sneered. Clang! Qin Feiyang shook the blood-red longsword in his hand. His aura firmly locked onto the gray castle, and said, There is no medicine for regret in this world. You can only blame yourself for being careless and underestimating us. Now answer my question, where did you see my ancestor? You don't think I'm stupid? If I tell you, do I still have a way to live? The weapon spirit sneered. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows and said, As long as you didn't lie to me, I can let you go. Really? The weapon spirit asked. I, Qin Feiyang, am a man of my word. Qin Feiyang said. The weapon spirit pondered for a moment and said, It seems that more than 2,000 years ago, I saw him and Lu Zhongyang in the deepest part of the Sky Dragon Sea. More than 2,000 years. Madman was slightly taken aback and asked suspiciously, What were they doing in the deepest part of the Sky Dragon Sea? I don't know. Qin Batian and Lu Zhongyang's methods are indeed terrifying, as you said. Back then they weren't very strong. I really wanted to refine them into puppets. But the result was the same as today. I was almost killed by them. Later, I escaped from the Sky Dragon Sea and have been hiding in the far west. But I didn't expect to meet their descendants now. The weapon spirit sighed and was a little depressed. Qin Feiyang said, So where are my ancestors now? You don't know either. But according to my estimation, they should still be in the Sky Dragon Sea. Although I don't know what they are doing, but I vaguely feel that they are planning something, the weapon spirit said. Sky Dragon Sea. Qin Feiyong muttered and said in a deep voice, then where did you get the potential pill and potential pill? The weapon spirit said, I snatched them from your ancestors. So that's how it is. Qin Feiyong came to a realization and frowned. Then why did you nurture that youth called Long Tianyu? So you really did learn of this sovereign's existence from him. How infuriating. If I knew earlier I wouldn't have helped him. The weapon spirit was furious. Although Long Tianyu is young, he is very righteous and did not betray you. It was because I forcefully read his memories that I learned of your existence. Qin Feiyong said indifferently. In that case I wronged him? The weapon spirit said in a daze. Qin Feiyong raised his eyebrows and said, quickly answer my question. This sovereign is just feeling sorry for him. His parents, as well as his grandfather, actually didn't die an unnatural death. Instead, they were assassinated. The weapon spirit sighed. What? Qin Feiyong was shocked and said, who secretly killed them? Why did they secretly kill them? After reading Long Tianyu's memories, he knew the cause of death of Long Tianyu's parents and grandfather. They all died under the claws of fierce beasts. But he did not expect that there was actually another secret. Chapter 2108. The artifact spirit said, their village chief. Village chief. Qin Feiyong and Madman looked at each other. That's right. Long Tianyu's mother wasn't from the village. She was brought back by Long Tianyu's father. She was quite beautiful. That village chief was lascivious. The moment she entered the village, he coveted her. But at that time she was pregnant. The village chief had some misgivings and didn't dare to do anything. Not long after Long Tianyu was born, the village chief couldn't hold back anymore. He tricked Long Tianyu's mother into an ice valley at the edge of the far west land and raped her. At this point the artifact spirit paused and said, I believe that you should know what happened without me explaining. Qin Feiyong and Madman nodded. After being humiliated, Long Tianyu's mother thought that the village chief would let her go as long as she didn't say anything. But on the contrary, not only did the village chief not let her go, he even used Long Tianyu to threaten her and forced her to submit. Later, she couldn't bear such humiliation and told Long Tianyu's father. After learning of this, Long Tianyu's father couldn't help but want to kill. But in consideration of his reputation, he didn't say anything. The couple discussed and secretly asked the village chief to go out and kill him. But the village chief was stronger than them. In the end, not only did they not succeed, they died in the village chief's hands. The artifact spirit sighed. They're worse than beasts. Madman said angrily. Qin Feiyong also couldn't help but be angry. He asked what happened later. Later, the village chief returned to the village and painfully told everyone that the couple had been clawed by ferocious beasts. He pretended to be a good person and took good care of Long Tianyu and Long Tianyu's grandfather. And the grandfather and grandson who didn't know were grateful to him. But one day, Long Tianyu's grandfather suddenly found a secret compartment in the house. There was a letter in the secret compartment. It was left behind by Long Tianyu's parents before they died. It was precisely because they were afraid of failure that they wrote down all the evil deeds of the village chief and hid them in the hidden compartment. After knowing the true cause of his son and daughter-in-law's death, Long Tianyu's grandfather was filled with grief. But he's just an ordinary old man. He's powerless to take revenge. Furthermore, the village chief is usually a nice guy in the village. Even if he were to announce the letter, no one would necessarily believe him. After much consideration, he thought of poisoning. But the result was obvious. He also failed and was killed by the village chief instead. Moreover, it was fake that he died under the claws of a vicious beast. In that case, Long Tianyu will truly become an orphan, the artifact spirit said. Madman asked, does Long Tianyu know about this? Before the artifact spirit could speak, Qin Feiyong said, he doesn't know. Because I didn't read any of his memories. Yes. Long Tianyu doesn't know. Even now, he still thinks that the village chief is sincerely taking care of him. The artifact spirit said. Qin Feiyang asked, then how did you know? And how did you know it so clearly? The artifact spirit said. I was bored and suddenly encountered this matter. I felt that it was quite interesting, so I paid special attention to it. Qin Feiyang frowned and said. Then why didn't you help them? Help? Based on what? They're just a bunch of ants. Are they worthy of this sovereign's help? The artifact spirit's tone was full of disdain. If that's the case, then why did you help Long Tianyu? Qin Feiyang was puzzled. This sovereign was moved by his perseverance. He entered the far west several times to search for opportunities and good fortune. The willpower he displayed during this period made this sovereign somewhat impressed. Later, he couldn't bear the invasion of the cold current and fainted on the snow. This sovereign couldn't bear it and kindly helped him. As for the truth, it was too big of a blow for a child of his age. Therefore, this sovereign has been hiding it from him. I wanted to wait for him to grow up before telling him, so that he can personally avenge his family. The artifact spirit said with a hint of doting love for Long Tianyu. Qin Feiyang said. It seems that you have developed feelings for Long Tianyu after being together with him for so many years. Yes. This child is sensible and obedient. He has always called me Grandpa. As time passed, this sovereign began to treat him like a grandson. Otherwise, this sovereign wouldn't have given him the potential elixir, nor would I have nurtured him wholeheartedly. The artifact spirit said. Since you care so much about him, why didn't you keep him by your side? You must know that if you let him return to the village, he might be killed by the village chief. Qin Feiyang said. He's a child after all. How lonely would it be to let him stay here alone? He's a child. He must have a good childhood. That's why this sovereign let him return to the village. As for the village chief, this sovereign had secretly planted a wisp of death energy in his body 2 years ago. As long as he has the intention to kill Long Tianyu, this sovereign will be able to sense it immediately. The artifact spirit said. A good childhood, Qin Feiyang muttered. Inexplicably, he couldn't help but envy Long Tianyu, because everyone wanted to have a good childhood. But they might not be able to do so, just like him. Although after being expelled from the imperial capital, Uncle Yuan had always been by his side. However, his heart had never been at peace for a single day. Since 10 years ago, he had been burdened with hatred, suffering, and torment. But Long Tianyu was different. Although Long Tianyu's background was also very miserable, he didn't know the truth now. He was still the same as before. He was an innocent child, enjoying the good childhood that a child should have. Moreover, there was also the Grey Castle silently protecting him. So in comparison, Long Tianyu was much happier than him. The artifact spirit suddenly said. You are the descendant of Qin Batian. Then you should also have the pill formulas for the potential elixir. Qin Feiyang nodded. The artifact spirit was overjoyed and quickly said. Then how about we discuss a condition? What condition? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. As the descendant of Qin Batian, your situation in the northern region is definitely not very good. However, this sovereign can help you. With this sovereign's strength, even if you are facing the 2 palace masters and the 10 great elders of the 9 heavens palace, this sovereign can help you kill a bloody path. Furthermore, this sovereign can protect you and enter the heavenly dragon sea to search for the whereabouts of Qin Batian and Lu Zhongyang. The artifact spirit said proudly. Qin Feiyang's heart skipped a beat. It was already very obvious that this Grey Castle was definitely a heaven-defying divine artifact. If the Grey Castle really helped him, then in the future, he would have more confidence in the 9 heavens palace. Thinking of this, Qin Feiyang asked, What is your condition? The artifact spirit said, Help this sovereign to nurture Long Tianyu. It's that simple? Qin Feiyang was surprised. Yes, the artifact spirit said. Qin Feiyang frowned. With your ability, you shouldn't need me to help you nurture him, right? That's true. Although your killing technique is heaven-defying, whether it is cultivation or experience, compared to this sovereign, they are far inferior. However, this sovereign only has a little potential pill and a few other potential pills. I don't have any other pills that can open the gate of potential. The artifact spirit said. So that's the case. Qin Feiyang was enlightened. Madman suddenly transmitted his voice. Kid, be careful, this might be a stalling tactic. A stalling tactic? Qin Feiyang was shocked. If not for Madman's reminder, he would have forgotten that the slaughter domain had a time limit. The slaughter domain could only be maintained for an hour. More than half of it had already passed. In other words, there was not much time left for the slaughter domain to open. Once the slaughter domain ended, he would undoubtedly become a lamb again, unless it recognized him as its master or controlled him. However, he had no way to forcefully recognize or control such a heaven-defying divine artifact. Wait a minute. The fact that the slaughter domain had a time limit, other than himself and the people around him, no one else knew about it. Therefore, as long as he didn't say anything, Grey Castle would probably think that he could open the slaughter domain at any time. As such, Grey Castle naturally wouldn't dare to act rashly. That wouldn't do. The artifact spirit had witnessed the entire process of opening the slaughter domain. Even if he didn't know that the slaughter domain had a time limit, he must have seen that the slaughter domain needed to absorb a large amount of blood to display its power. With Grey Castle's strength, it was completely capable of killing him, while he was in the process of opening the slaughter domain and absorbing blood. In other words, if he didn't take the opportunity to destroy Grey Castle now, anything could happen in the future. However, wasn't it too much of a pity to destroy such a heaven-defying divine artifact? Was there any way to get the best of both worlds? What? You don't believe this sovereign's words and are afraid that this sovereign will plot against you? Seeing that Qin Feiyang didn't speak for a long time, the artifact spirit was suspicious. Yes, Qin Feiyang didn't deny it, because there was no need. I didn't expect you to be such a vigilant person. How about this? This sovereign will let you recognize me as your master first. When we find Qin Badian and Lu Zhengyang, you can remove the blood contract. The artifact spirit said. When Qin Feiyang heard this, he looked at the Grey Castle with an astonished expression. It actually took the initiative to recognize him as its master? Hey, do you think I don't exist? When Madman heard these words, he couldn't sit still because it was obvious that Grey Castle didn't play any tricks. They were sincere in wanting to help Qin Feiyang. Then he couldn't continue to stand idly by. After all, it was a heaven-defying divine artifact. Such a big advantage, how could he give it to Qin Feiyang? You have an opinion? The artifact spirit was suspicious. Of course. Look at me, in terms of talent I'm stronger than Qin Feiyang. In terms of status, I'm also higher than Qin Feiyang. If you follow me, I guarantee that you'll live a good life. As for training Long Tianyu, that's not a problem for me. It's as simple as drinking tea and chatting. Madman said. Qin Feiyang's face turned black. This was clearly trying to poach him. The artifact spirit pondered for a while and said, It seems to make sense, but can you refine pills like the potential pill? This, Madman was quite happy at first, but when he heard the second half of the sentence, he shrank back. He didn't even have the pill recipe, let alone refining these pills. Moreover, even if he had the pill recipe, he couldn't refine it, because he wasn't an alchemist at all. If you can't refine it, why are you still interrupting? Get lost. The artifact spirit shouted ruthlessly. Chapter 2109. The madman's expression stiffened. Although I can't refine it with my face, what kind of pill can't I get? The artifact spirit said, Is that so? Of course. The madman nodded and pointed at Qin Feiyang. If you don't believe me, ask this kid. If I ask him for a pill, will he not give it to me? Qin Feiyang grinned and looked at the madman. Sorry, what did you say? I don't understand. A row of black lines appeared on the madman's forehead. He glared at Qin Feiyang and roared, Can't you cooperate? If it's the truth, I will definitely cooperate with you. But bragging, forget it. We have to be honest people. Qin Feiyang chuckled. You want me to cooperate with you when you're trying to steal my woman? Do you think I'm stupid? The madman gritted his teeth in anger. Is there a need to do this? Yesterday before entering the land of the far west, didn't you say that if there is any treasure, you will give it to me? Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes at him. Fuck. What I mean is ordinary treasures. But this is an ordinary treasure? This is a heaven-defying artifact. It might even control the power of laws. The madman thought. Qin Feiyong said, fine, let's be fair and let the artifact spirit choose. If the artifact spirit chooses, it will definitely choose you. The madman was furious. If he could refine a pill that could open the door of potential, then he had an absolute chance of winning. Then you can't blame me. Who told you not to be an alchemist? Qin Feiyong smiled proudly. The madman was furious. If he knew this would happen, he wouldn't have brought this guy along. Qin Feiyong looked at the gray castle and said, you said it yourself. I didn't force you. Yes. But let's talk about the ugly things first. If you don't help me break the blood contract when I find Qin Badian and Lu Zhengyang, I will take you down with me even if I have to destroy my own body. The artifact spirit snorted coldly, his tone filled with a bone-piercing chill. All right. It's a deal. Qin Feiyong cut his finger and a drop of purple gold dragon blood seeped out and entered the gray castle. The artifact spirit really didn't resist. Very soon, the master recognition process was complete. Qin Feiyong finally let out a sigh of relief and closed the slaughter domain. The blood-red sword in his hand also dissipated. As soon as the slaughter domain disappeared, the bone-piercing cold current surged violently. Madman pursed his lips and formed a barrier to protect Qin Feiyong. He was very reluctant to do so, because right now he was very depressed. He had spent so much effort, but in the end he didn't get anything. Instead, it all went to Qin Feiyong. Just thinking about it made him unhappy. However, if Qin Feiyong really froze to death here, it would be troublesome. Thank you. Qin Feiyong smiled. Scram. Madman shouted coldly. Just looking at it made him angry. Qin Feiyong shook his head and smiled. He turned to look at the gray castle and asked, your main body should be able to repair itself, right? Of course. The artifact spirit said proudly. Qin Feiyong said again. Then can you let us take a look inside your main body? He was very curious about the inside of the gray castle. You are now considered this sovereign's master. If you want to go in, it's just a thought. There is no need to get this sovereign's permission, right? The artifact spirit was a little speechless. Isn't this a form of respect for you? Qin Feiyong laughed. Respect? The artifact spirit was stunned and laughed hoarsely. This is the first time this sovereign has heard that a human would respect an artifact spirit. You are indeed different. All right, after this sovereign has repaired my main body, I will let you go in and take a look. All right. Qin Feiyong nodded. Then this sovereign will borrow your body. After the artifact spirit said that, the gray castle quickly shrank and entered Qin Feiyong's body in an instant. It floated in his qi sea and flickered with a hazy light. This is really infuriating. Madman stared at Qin Feiyong with a face full of envy and jealousy. This is my character. In this matter, your character is still not as good as mine. Qin Feiyong laughed. Look at how cocky you are. Madman said with a face full of contempt. But you can't let this daddy come here for nothing, right? What do you want? Qin Feiyong asked with a smile. After obtaining the gray castle, he was in a good mood. You have to give this daddy something? How about this? Give this daddy your spatial divine item. This daddy doesn't mind. Madman said. You don't mind? I can't bear to. Don't even think about it. Qin Feiyong rolled his eyes. He knew that this guy wanted the black tortoise world. It's just a spatial divine item. Is there a need for you? Madman despised. Qin Feiyong waved his hand impatiently and said, Okay. Stop talking nonsense. Hurry up and go back. How could Madman be willing? He had to get some benefits. Qin Feiyong said angrily, I say, what do you want? What's the point of being so wishy-washy for a man? Do you know that this is a classic example of taking advantage of others? Madman was instantly furious. Qin Feiyong smiled embarrassedly and said, Okay, this time I owe you a favor. If you need anything in the future, just come and find me. After all, it was Madman who brought him to the far west land. He also did his best on the way. As a person, he couldn't only care about himself. That's more like it. Madman's anger subsided a lot. Then with Qin Feiyong, he turned into a stream of light and disappeared like lightning. In the evening, two figures flew out of the far west land. It was Qin Feiyong and Madman. Madman asked, Are we going back now? To see Tianyu. A hoarse voice sounded from Qin Feiyong's body. It was the artifact spirit. Madman sneered. You are quite concerned about him. The artifact spirit ignored him and asked, Are you going back to Nine Heaven Palace next? Yes. Qin Feiyong nodded. Then do you want to bring Long Tianyu with you? I don't feel at ease leaving him here alone. The artifact spirit was worried. This? Qin Feiyong turned to look at Madman. This won't do. The rules of Nine Heaven Palace are that one must be at least a war god and pass the official test to enter Nine Heaven Palace. Madman shook his head. This? The artifact spirit was hesitant. How about this? Let's ask his opinion first and see if he wants to stay in the village or go with us, Qin Feiyong said. Okay. The artifact spirit replied. Qin Feiyong retracted his aura, opened an altar, and teleported to the sky above the village. In the evening, the village was brightly lit. Many people were taking a walk outside to enjoy the shade. Children were also playing happily. However, they couldn't find Long Tianyu in the village. Where did he go? Qin Feiyong frowned. Shua. The gray castle appeared and said, This noble one guesses that he must be cultivating in a secret room in his home. Secret room? Qin Feiyong was surprised. Yes. I've warned him that when he cultivates, he must find a secluded place, because I gave him a lot of battle chi pills. And they were all battle chi pills with 5 veins and above. If other people in the village saw these battle chi pills, especially the village chief, they would definitely be greedy. So when he came back from the far west, he dug a secret room under his bedroom. At night, he would cultivate in the secret room. The artifact spirit said. When Qin Feiyong heard this, he carefully looked at Long Tianyu's memories that he had read. There was indeed such a thing. After reading the memories, he also knew where Long Tianyu's home was. Shua. He took a step and instantly landed in a remote corner on the left side of the village. There was a small wooden house in this corner. There was only one floor. It was very shabby. There were no other houses within a few hundred meters. It seemed a little lonely. This was Long Tianyu's home. In fact, Long Tianyu didn't live here in the past. His family originally lived not far from the entrance of the village. There were many neighbors. It was only after his grandfather passed away that he moved here. On one hand, it was to be able to cultivate in peace. On the other hand, because of the death of his parents and grandfather, his personality became a little lonely. He didn't like to live too close to others. Let's go. Qin Feiyong smiled. But just as Qin Feiyong, Madman, and the gray castle were about to walk out of the small wooden house, a black shadow suddenly flew over from afar. Qin Feiyong and Madman frowned. If this black shadow was out in the open, they wouldn't think too much about it. However, that black shadow was very sneaky. It didn't make the slightest bit of sound. Who is he? Madman was suspicious. Madman was startled and frowned. I seem to have heard that during the test, you were at the bottom of the sky stairway and were troubled by Feng Wan Hai, so you also opened this slaughter domain. Qin Feiyong nodded and said contemptuously, if it wasn't for Shangguan Fenglan's appearance, Feng Wan Hai would have already become a ghost under my sword. Madman was stunned and said with a playful smile, this Feng Wan Hai probably still doesn't know that Shangguan Fenglan indirectly saved his life. Don't just talk about me. When are you going to show me your true trump card? Qin Feiyong secretly said. Me? The methods I showed in the morning are all of my strength. Madman chuckled. Do you think I will believe you? Qin Feiyong rolled his eyes at him. Madman pouted and said lightly, forget it if you don't believe me. About 10 breaths later, the village chief looked around and turned into an alley. Qin Feiyong and Madman also followed in. Not long after, the village chief stopped in front of a house and looked around sneakily. Seeing that there was no one around, he gently knocked on the door. Not long after, the door opened. A woman appeared in his line of sight. The woman was about 30 years old, and although she was dressed very plainly, her figure was quite good, and she was still charming. It's you. When the woman saw the village chief, her face turned pale, and she quickly closed the door. However, the village chief quickly raised his hand and pushed the door open, and even the woman was forced back a few steps. Then the village chief walked in and closed the door behind him. What are you doing? The woman was terrified. Long to you is not here, what are you doing? Also, keep your voice down, don't let the neighbors hear you. The village chief leaned against the door, holding his chin, and his eyes unscrupulously scanned the woman's body. The woman's face was pale, and she suddenly knelt on the ground and begged, "Please let me go, okay? I don't want to let you down." Hearing this, the village chief rushed over angrily and slapped the woman's face. "It's your fortune that I like you, don't be so shameless. Besides, it's not our first time. If you want to say that you've let down Long to you, you've already let him down." After the village chief finished speaking, he sat on a chair in the hall and said with a smile, "Crawl over here." The woman didn't seem to hear it, and she was paralyzed there in despair. "Didn't you hear me? Do you want me to kill Long to you? Okay. Once Long to you is dead, I can come to find you even more unscrupulously. You know that I have the ability. After all, my son is now a disciple of Nine Heaven Palace." The village chief laughed. "What? His son is also a disciple of Nine Heaven Palace?" Inside the Black Tortoise world, Qin Feiyong and Madman looked at each other. After the village chief closed the door, they naturally couldn't directly barge in. Therefore, Qin Feiyong brought Madman into the Black Tortoise world, and then sneaked into the hall without anyone noticing. Because of this, they heard every word of the village chief. "Don't kill you." At the same time, the woman's body stiffened, and she hurriedly looked at the village chief and shouted, "Then crawl over here. As long as you serve me well, I guarantee that Long to you will be safe." The village chief said. The woman crawled toward the village chief in despair, her eyes filled with tears. The village chief looked at the woman with a face of satisfaction. "Preposterous, preposterous. This beast is simply the shame of my northern region." Madman was furious. Not only did he take someone else's wife, he even threatened him so blatantly. This was intolerable. Qin Feiyong's heart was also burning with anger. The village chief didn't realize that danger was coming. He lay on the chair and said, "Take off your clothes and crawl onto me." The woman sobbed and could only begin to undress. How impressive! But at this moment, a cold and bone-chilling voice sounded. Following closely, two figures appeared out of thin air in the hall. It was Qin Feiyong and Madman. "Who is it?" The village chief suddenly stood up. The woman also retreated to the side in panic. "The person who wants your life." Madman laughed sinisterly. "It's you guys." The village chief looked at the two and said in shock and anger, "Yesterday, when Qin Feiyong and Madman broke into the village and read Long Tianyu's memories, the village chief was actually present. But at that time he didn't say anything. He even hoped that Qin Feiyong could kill Long Tianyu. So when he saw Qin Feiyong and Madman's faces, he immediately recognized them. "Yes, it's us." Madman took a step forward and instantly landed in front of the village chief. Then he stretched out his arm like lightning and grabbed the village chief's neck. The village chief wanted to resist, but he was shocked to find that the young man's strength was too great. He couldn't move at all. At the same time, Qin Feiyong waved his hand and condensed a barrier that covered the entire hall. The next movement would definitely be a bit big, so it was better to soundproof it so as not to alarm the other people in the village. After all, this wasn't something to be proud of. "You dare to touch me? Do you know who my son is?" The village chief roared in horror. The madman shouted, "Then do you know who I am?" The village chief looked at Madman and sneered. "Looking at you, I know that you must be a little boy. And my son is a disciple of Nine Heaven Palace. You can never afford to offend him." "Don't worry, I don't have any thoughts about you." Qin Feiyong smiled bitterly. Did he lack beauties? He never lacked beauties. How could he do such a thing? She underestimated Qin Feiyong too much. Hearing this, the woman didn't relax. Her face was still full of panic. Qin Feiyong shook his head helplessly and said, "I believe you also know that this matter is not glorious, so it's best to hide it from your husband." "But the village chief," the woman said. "Don't worry, from now on, he will disappear without a trace. But you have to keep your mouth shut about what happened tonight. In other words, even if someone asks you about the village chief's whereabouts in the future, you have to pretend that you don't know anything, understand?" Qin Feiyong said. Yes, The woman nodded repeatedly. All right then, live well. Don't feel sorry for your husband. After all, you were forced to do this. Qin Feiyong smiled. Thank you, the woman said gratefully. She slowly realized that the young man in front of her did not have any malicious intentions. Instead, he was enlightening her and teaching her how to deal with the aftermath. Qin Feiyong smiled and turned to leave. Outside the village beside the stream, when Qin Feiyong arrived, he only saw Madman and the village chief. Madman had an angry smile on his face. The village chief's attitude was also very arrogant. Qin Feiyong glanced at the village chief, then looked at Madman and said, "He's still arrogant? How can you use the word arrogant to describe him? He doesn't put madman in his eyes at all," Madman said angrily. Qin Feiyong glanced at the village chief and smiled. "I have to admit, your guts are really big. Is it very funny? You just wait and see. When we reach Nine Heavens Palace, you will be like him, kneeling in front of my son and begging for mercy." The village chief looked at Qin Feiyong and sneered. Qin Feiyong was stunned. "Can't you see that we are also disciples of Nine Heavens Palace? So what? Can you compare to my son?" The village chief said proudly. Qin Feiyong's expression froze and asked curiously, "Then dare I ask, what rank is your son in Nine Heavens Palace? If I tell you, you will be scared to death," the village chief said. Qin Feiyong smiled. "Then tell us, let's see if you can scare us to death. Listen well, my son is now an earth-ranking disciple of Nine Heavens Palace. Rank 10th, the village chief said with a face full of arrogance. Qin Feiyong was stunned again. Earth-ranking 10th? At most, he was just a perfect war god and he thought he was strong. Afraid, but it's too late. I will definitely make you pay the price for offending me. The village chief sneered. Qin Feiyong nodded. Yes, we are afraid. You are a great person, don't bother with us. The village chief was even more proud. However, he didn't notice that Madman's eyes were filled with disdain. He didn't even put a heaven-ranking disciple in his eyes, let alone an earth-ranking disciple. Of course, this village chief did have the right to be arrogant. After all, an earth-ranking disciple had a certain status in Nine Heavens Palace. Qin Feiyong was too lazy to talk nonsense with the village chief. He looked around and asked Madman, "They still haven't arrived?" Madman nodded. But before he finished, the Grey Castle brought Long Tianyu with it as it broke through the air and landed in front of Qin Feiyong and Long Tianyu. When the village chief saw Long Tianyu, he was stunned. When Long Tianyu saw the village chief, a trace of surprise appeared on his face. But when he saw Qin Feiyong and Madman, he panicked and shouted, "Grandpa Grey, yesterday it was them. Grandpa knows what happened yesterday. That was just a misunderstanding." The Grey Castle's spirit laughed. "What? It can actually speak?" The village chief looked at the Grey Castle with his mouth agape. The Grey Castle ignored him and smiled at Long Tianyu. "Tianyu, they are the two big brothers that Grandpa told you about. From now on, follow them and listen to them. Do you understand?" Long Tianyu looked at the two of them in fear. Yesterday when Qin Feiyong controlled him and read his memories, it made him wish he was dead. So until now, he was still a little afraid. "Don't be afraid. They are my friends. Yesterday they didn't know about our relationship," the Grey Castle said. "I see." Long Tianyu nodded his head. He looked at Qin Feiyong and Madman and smiled politely. "Hello, big brothers." Qin Feiyong smiled. Madman pouted and looked at the Grey Castle. "Is it over? If it is, we will return to Nine Heavens Palace." "Wait, what is going on with him?" the artifact spirit asked. It seemed like he was talking about the village chief. Madman said expressionlessly, "He is doing something immoral again, so I couldn't take it anymore and attacked." "You really won't change. That's good. Once we get rid of this problem, everything is over," the artifact spirit said. He wanted to let Long Tianyu deal with him, but now that Madman and Qin Feiyong attacked, there was nothing he could say. Moreover, it was good to get rid of such a person in case he harmed others. "Then I will leave Tianyu to you." "Right, I didn't tell Tianyu about your true identity," the Grey Castle said to Qin Feiyong in secret. Then it entered Qin Feiyong's body and continued to repair its body. "Let's go." Qin Feiyong looked at Long Tianyu and then at Madman. Madman waved his hand and opened an altar. He grabbed the village chief and jumped up. Qin Feiyong carried Long Tianyu and landed beside Madman. Long Tianyu looked at the village chief and then at Qin Feiyong and asked, "Big brother, is Grandpa village chief going to Nine Heaven Palace too?" "Yes. He made a mistake and is going to Nine Heaven Palace to be punished." Qin Feiyong smiled. "What mistake did he make?" "Grandpa village chief is a good person." Long Tianyu didn't understand. Qin Feiyong rubbed Long Tianyu's head and smiled. "This is a matter between us adults. A kid like you shouldn't interfere." "Oh." Long Tianyu nodded. After opening dozens of altars, the four of them finally arrived at the bottom of the stairway. "This is Nine Heaven Palace?" Long Tianyu looked at the stairway curiously. "Mm." Qin Feiyong nodded. Madman looked at the village chief and grinned. "Old fart, just you wait. You will see your son soon." The village chief laughed coldly. "Then it will be the time of your death." "Haha," Madman laughed. He grabbed the village chief and stepped onto the stairway. Wong! The stairway buzzed. This was because the village chief wasn't someone from Nine Heaven Palace, so the stairway gave off a warning. The white-haired old man sitting beside the stairway suddenly opened his eyes and looked at Madman. "Outsiders aren't allowed to enter Nine Heaven Palace." Madman's expression froze. He turned to look at the white-haired old man and said unhappily, "Old man, is there a need to be so strict?" "This is the rule." The white-haired old man said indifferently, "Make an exception." Madman smiled. He seemed to be afraid of the white-haired old man. "No." The white-haired old man shook his head. "Haha, and here I was thinking how powerful you were. You can't even order a gatekeeper old man around. If it was my son, would he not give face?" The village chief sneered mercilessly. "Gatekeeper old man." Qin Feiyong and Madman were stunned. This person really wasn't afraid of death. Did he know how strong this old man was? The white-haired old man glanced at the village chief, but there wasn't any anger on his face. It was as if nothing could affect his indifferent state of mind. "Old man, I really have something to do. Can you make an exception?" Madman looked at the white-haired old man and said, Look, he's not giving you face. If you don't have the ability, then don't be arrogant." The village chief laughed. Chapter 21:12. Shut up. Madman slapped village chief's face with the back of his hand. He was already annoyed, but the village chief didn't know what was good for him and kept nagging at the side. Wasn't he looking for a beating? "Little bastard, you hit me? Just you wait, you're dead. Even if the heavens come down, they won't be able to save you." The village chief roared. The white-haired old man looked at the village chief curiously and asked, "Frenzy, where did you bring this mad dog back from?" "Old thing, what did you say? A guard dog dares to be so rude to me. Do you know who my son is? Do you believe that I'll get my son to kill you later?" The village chief stared at the white-haired old man and roared. Seeing this scene, Frenzy and Qin Feiyong looked at each other. He actually scolded. He must be tired of living. The white-haired old man looked at the village chief and then at Frenzy. "I'll make an exception this time and let you bring him in." "Thank you." Frenzy laughed and immediately grabbed Frenzy and flew up. Qin Feiyong led Long Tianyu to the white-haired old man and asked, "Senior, what about this child?" "Him." The white-haired old man sized up Long Tianyu and pondered for a moment before saying, "At most one day." "Thank you, Senior." Qin Feiyong cupped his hands and expressed his gratitude. Then, he gave Long Tianyu a meaningful glance. Long Tianyu might be young, but he was very sensible. He immediately understood and bowed to the white-haired old man. "Thank you, Grandpa." The white-haired old man gave a rare smile and then closed his eyes, ignoring Qin Feiyong and Frenzy. "Let's go." Qin Feiyong pulled Long Tianyu and walked up the stairway. The moment Long Tianyu walked up the stairway started to give off a warning. And the higher they went, the louder the sound became. Finally, the sound of the stairway was like a bell that resounded in the sky above the Nine Heaven Palace. What's going on? This is the stairway's warning. Did someone barge into the Nine Heaven Palace? That's not right. The stairway to heaven is guarded. How could anyone break in? Let's go and take a look. In an instant, The Nine Heavens Palace was in an uproar. Regardless of whether it was the people outside or inside, they all rushed towards the stairway, because the master of the stairway to heaven was the Vice-Palace Lord. Therefore, even if the white-haired old man agreed, the warning would not disappear. This is Nine Heaven Palace? So big, how magical. The beasts over there are so strong. When he reached the top of the stairway to heaven, Long Tianyu's heart couldn't help but tremble when he saw the majestic scene before him. The village chief was also dumbfounded. Because this was also his first time entering the Nine Heavens Palace, he was deeply shocked by the scene before him. Lunatic? Jiang Haotian? A surprised voice was heard. Following closely, a familiar figure broke through the air and landed on the square. It was Cheng Li. The outer sanctum was the closest to the stairway to heaven, so as an outer sanctum elder, he was the first to rush over. Who are they? Cheng Li asked with a frown when he saw the village chief and Long Tianyu. It has nothing to do with you. Scram to the side. Lunatic grabbed the village chief and flew into the air. Qin Feiyang didn't say anything. He brought Long Tianyu and followed behind Madman, flying towards the inner sect. Looking at the attitude of the two, Cheng Li's eyes flashed with a cold light as he angrily said, Lunatic Jiang Haotian, you guys are too presumptuous. You actually dare to bring outsiders into the Nine Heaven Palace. If you speak any more nonsense, this daddy will kill you. Lunatic turned around and stared at Cheng Li. Cheng Li's pupils immediately shrank as a chill appeared in his heart. Qin Feiyang pointed below the stairway to heaven and smiled. Elder, this matter has already been approved by that old man. What? Cheng Li was stunned. It's senior brother Lunatic and Jiang Haotian. Who are that man and child? Why were they brought to the Nine Heaven Palace? Wait, did you guys notice that senior brother Lunatic's expression is very bad? Along the way, no one dared to block them, but looking at the back of Qin Feiyang and Lunatic, everyone was filled with suspicion. Inner sect. The Crimson Gold Divine Tower was located at the peak of the mountain, giving off a majestic and ancient aura. Lunatic and Qin Feiyang brought the village chief and Long Tianyu to the square in front of the Crimson Gold Divine Tower. Qin Feiyang glanced at the village chief and smiled. This is where your son cultivates. He cultivates in such a place? One look and I can tell that this place is different. Looks like that kid didn't lie to me. He is someone with status in the Nine Heaven Palace. You guys are all dead. The village chief smiled proudly. Ignorance is scary. Qin Feiyang shook his head and sighed. Even now he was still so proud. He was so stupid that no medicine could save him. The village chief didn't notice and shouted, Son, come out. Someone wants to kill your daddy. Behind them, there were already many people surrounding them. Hearing the village chief's words, everyone looked at the village chief in shock. Son, what was going on? At the same time, the first level of the Crimson Gold Divine Tower, a black-clothed youth sat on the ground with a face filled with shock. This seems to be Father's voice. But isn't he at home? Why would he appear in the Nine Heaven Palace? It should be an illusion. The black-clothed youth muttered and closed his eyes, not bothering about it. Ryuko, I am calling you. Do you hear me? Very soon. Another angry roar sounded. It's really Father? But what is going on? Why is Father in the Nine Heaven Palace? Wait, was the warning from the stairway because of Father? No. Father said that someone wants to kill him. Father is asking for help. He got up and left the Crimson Gold Divine Tower with killing intent. He shouted, Who is so bold to hurt my father? Outside. Long Xiang's voice also came out of the Crimson Gold Divine Pagoda, echoing above the Divine Pagoda for a long time. Just you wait. Next year today will be the anniversary of your death. When the village chief heard Ryuko's voice, he immediately looked at Qin Feiyang and Madman and sneered. The corner of Madman's mouth lifted slightly, full of ridicule. I understand. It's probably that Ryuko's father accidentally offended Madman, so Madman brought him into the Nine Heaven Palace to find trouble with Ryuko. Your guess shouldn't be too far from the truth. Is this person stupid? He actually dared to offend senior brother Madman. The most ridiculous thing is that he thought that his son Ryuko can support him. What an idiot. Who doesn't know senior brother Madman's means? Even a heavenless disciple can't enter senior brother Madman's eyes. let alone a mere earthless disciple. The disciples gathered at the back slowly guessed the general situation and whispered. Their faces were full of ridicule. Boom! The door of the crimson gold divine tower opened. A black-clothed youth strode out, his face full of anger. It was Ryuko. He glanced around and raised his head to look at the village chief. Seeing that madman and Qin Feiyong were also there, he was slightly stunned. Immediately, he hurriedly flew up and cupped his hands. Thank you for bringing my father into the Nine-Heaven Palace. Son, why are you thanking them? The village chief frowned. Of course I have to thank them. They brought you into the Nine-Heaven Palace. This is a great kindness, Ryuko said. He still didn't know about the grudge between the village chief and Qin Feiyong. He only thought that Qin Feiyong and Madman were kind enough to bring his father into the Nine-Heaven Palace. After saying that, Ryuko ignored the stunned village chief and turned to look at Long Tianyu who was standing beside Qin Feiyong. He smiled and said, Tianyu, you're here too. Long Tianyu giggled and said, Brother Xiang, long time no see. After all, they were from the same village, so they must be very familiar with each other. Ryuko looked at village chief and Long Tianyu and asked, Father Tianyu, who wants to kill you? Hurry up and tell me. I'll take you to destroy him right away. Kill him? Madman said. Yes. How dare he bully the family of Ryuko Ryuyang? Even if he is the god of heaven, I will not let him off. Ryuko said coldly. Really? So, you want to kill me? The madman smiled playfully as he looked at Ryuko. What? Ryuko was stunned. He quickly looked at the madman and smiled. How could I kill you? I'm talking about the person who wanted to kill my father. Village chief cried out, Son, they are the ones who want to kill me. Them. Ryuko was startled. He looked at village chief and asked, Father, who are they? In his opinion, his father would definitely not offend the madman and Qin Feiyong. Village chief pointed at the madman and Qin Feiyong and said, The two of them. What? Ryuko was petrified. The people his father was talking about were the madman and Jiang Haotian? What was going on? The village was so far away from Nine-Heaven Palace. How did his father offend these two? The madman crossed his arms in front of his chest, his eyes filled with playfulness. Ryuko came back to his senses and looked at Qin Feiyong and Jiang Haotian. He asked, Senior brother Madman, junior brother Jiang, is this true? Qin Feiyong smiled. Your father said it himself. How could it be false? Long Xiang felt as if he had been struck by a bolt from the blue. His body stiffened, and his face instantly turned deathly pale. It was actually true. It was these two people who wanted to kill his father. Not to mention Jiang Haotian, this madman was a lawless person. How could his father offend him? Son, what are you doing? Teach them a lesson. They almost killed me. Village chief said angrily. Shut up. Ryuko suddenly raised his head and stared at village chief. Village chief's expression suddenly froze. Then he turned to Ryuko and scolded him. What kind of attitude is this? I worked so hard to raise you. Now that you have grown up and your wings have hardened, you treat me like this? Interesting. The playfulness on the madman's face became stronger. Qin Feiyong also had a smile on his face. Looking at the smiles on Qin Feiyong and Jiang Haotian's faces, Ryuko was burning with anxiety. He shouted at village chief, Shut up, shut up. If you continue like this, you will get me killed. What a joke. You are now an Earthroll disciple. Who dares to touch you? I think you have hardened your wings. You don't even listen to me. Village chief said angrily. Chapter 21:13. Is this person from the countryside? Does he think that an Earthroll disciple is invincible? Even a Heavenroll disciple doesn't dare to be arrogant in front of senior brother Madman. What is an Earthroll disciple? Just watch, Ryuko Yang will definitely be killed by him. Everyone looked at the village chief with disdain in their eyes. Ryuko Yang saw that the village chief not only didn't restrain himself, but instead became even more aggressive, making him anxious. Pa! He raised his hand and slapped the village chief's face. The village chief was stunned on the spot. Ryuko Yang wasn't in the mood to mess around with the village chief. As long as he could shut the village chief up, Immediately after, he knelt down in the air and looked at Madman's senior brother. This must be a misunderstanding. Please be magnanimous and don't bother with us, okay? The village chief was a vain person to begin with. After being slapped by his son in public, how could he hold back his face? When he came back to his senses, he wanted to get angry. But Ryuko Yang suddenly knelt down, making him dumbfounded. What was going on? His son was an Earth Roll disciple, but he actually knelt down in front of this person? Misunderstanding? I don't think this is a misunderstanding. This old man of yours is more than a little arrogant. Not only has he been rude to me, but he even said that this day next year will be my death anniversary. Madman chuckled. What? He actually said such words. Ryuko Yang's eyes trembled as he looked at the village chief and shouted, "Quickly kneel down and kowtow to senior brother Madman and apologize." Kowtow and apologize? The village chief began to panic. He also slowly realized that the two young people in front of him weren't that simple. Hurry up, Ryuko Yang said angrily. The father of an Earth Roll disciple kowtowing to me. I'm afraid I can't accept it. After all, an Earth Roll disciple has status and place in our Nine Heaven Palace, Madman said. No. My father only bragged because he didn't know. In front of you, senior brother, what am I? I'm not even a dog. Ryuko smiled flatteringly. Looking at the lowly Ryuko kneeling in front of the madman, the village chief panicked. If even an Earth-ranking disciple was so terrified, one could imagine how high the position of this madman in Nine Heavens Palace was. It seemed that this time he had really gotten himself into big trouble. Ryuko roared, "Kneel!" Village chief trembled and immediately knelt down in front of madman. His face was filled with fear as he thought to himself, "Son, where did this person come from? He is someone we can never afford to offend. There are over 10 million disciples in the Nine Heavens Palace, and he is the #1 disciple. No one has ever dared to be arrogant in front of him. If he wants to kill us, even heavenly deities won't be able to stop him. Dad, you're in big trouble this time. How did you offend him? Can't you be more careful?" Ryuko was furious. When the village chief heard this, he immediately collapsed to the ground. Who would have thought that this seemingly unremarkable young man would be so terrifying? Not so arrogant anymore? Where's the arrogance from before? Madman said. I'm sorry. Village chief's expression changed as he hurriedly kowtowed and apologized. Just a word of sorry and it's over? Then where will I put my face in the future? You're really tired of being arrogant in front of me. If you're not arrogant, then I'll be arrogant. Now I'll let you see what true arrogance is. Madman kicked the village chief's face, causing his face to be mangled. He lay in the air and howled miserably. Following that, Madman slapped Ryuko's face again. Long Xiang's face was also lacerated, flesh and blood flying everywhere. Did you see that? Slapping an Earth-ranking disciple in public, this is true arrogance. Who do you think you are? Madman laughed angrily. Senior brother, spare me. How could Ryuko care about the injuries on his face? He kept kowtowing and begging for mercy. As for the village chief, it was too late for regrets. How did he provoke such a terrifying fiend? Madman spat on the ground with a face full of disdain. He looked at Ryuko and said, Ryuko, I'll ask you one thing. Do you know what your father did in the village? Ryuko was slightly taken aback as he raised his head and looked at Madman in surprise. Answer me. Madman shouted. Ryuko trembled as he turned to look at the village chief. He shook his head and said, I don't know. You don't know? Then why are you hesitating? Zhang Haoyan read his memories. I want to see if he's telling the truth. Madman said. Okay. Qin Feiyang nodded. He formed a seal with both hands and a puppet imprint appeared. Madman said, if you dare to resist, I'll kill you now. Ryuko originally wanted to resist. Although he didn't know what the imprint was from Madman's words, it wasn't hard to guess that it should be a secret technique that could read the memories of others. Reading his memories, how could he let that happen? However, when he heard Madman's warning, he didn't dare to resist. He lowered his head and said bitterly, There's no need to read my memories. I admit that I know everything. I knew you were lying. Since you knew, why didn't you stop it? Just because you're a small disciple of Nine Heaven Palace, you and your father can do whatever you want in the village? Madman roared. It's my fault, my fault. In the past, I tried to persuade him, but he didn't listen. What could I do? He's my father after all. Ryuko shouted. Persuaded? Why don't I believe you? Madman sneered and looked at Qin Feiyong. Control him, I want to know the truth. Qin Feiyong waved his hand, and the imprint turned into a stream of light and entered Ryuko's head. After controlling Ryuko, he immediately read Ryuko's memories. Long Xiang immediately howled miserably. A moment later, Qin Feiyong raised his eyebrows, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. He looked at Madman and said, Senior brother, you're really good at predicting things. When Ryuko heard this, he became nervous. What do you mean? Madman was suspicious. Not only did he not stop his father, but he also often bullied people in the village. There are more than a dozen girls in the village who were all harmed by him. And his methods of torturing others are better than his father, Qin Feiyong said. Ryuko was in despair. He could actually read his memories. What? There are more than a dozen girls who were all ruined by him. Madman was dumbfounded, unable to believe it to the extreme. Qin Feiyong nodded and said, and after he ruined them, they were all killed by him. Bastard! You are simply the scum of scum, and the shame of our Nine Heavens Palace. For a person like you, even if you were to be cut into pieces, it would not be enough to relieve the hatred in my heart. Madman flew into a rage and slammed his palm towards Long Xiang's head. Don't kill me, senior brother, I was wrong. I will definitely change in the future. Ryuko roared in horror. However, Madman turned a deaf ear and didn't show any mercy. He slapped the top of Long Xiang's head. Suddenly, a scream resounded through the sky. Along with the scream, Ryuko's head exploded on the spot like a watermelon, and blood dyed the surroundings red. Son, the village chief stared dumbfoundedly at the corpse that was slowly falling down, his entire body sinking into deep fear. Madman smiled in disdain, looked at the village chief and said, Didn't you always say that when you see your son, it will be the time of our death? What about now? The village chief quivered and hurriedly begged, Lord, please spare my life. I have eyes but fail to recognize Mount Tai. I'm sorry, actually I admire your courage, because you are the first person who dares to be arrogant in front of me. Unfortunately, you are also very stupid. Because of your stupidity, not only did you kill yourself, you also killed your son. Madman grabbed the village chief and flew towards a mountain not far away. Madman, what is he trying to do? It's definitely not a good thing. Ryuko Yang was indeed killed, how pitiful. Pitiful. Didn't you hear Zhang Haoyan say before that this father and son pair bullied men and women in the village? There were more than 10 girls in the village who were all ruined by Ryuko Yang. This kind of scum deserves to die. I'm just curious, how did Madman and Zhang Haoyan find out about this? I also know that Ryuko Yang, we even drank together a few times. His village is far from our Nine Heaven Palace. It seems that we have to open more than 10 altars to get there. Maybe someone snitched on him.